This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by.
Good morning and welcome to the March meeting of London's Environment Committee. It's the last meeting of this year. We won't be meeting again until May or June, so I'm hoping that this is it might be the last one, but it might be the best one, who knows. So before we get started, can I just remind people, usual reminders about can you put your phone on silent, and can you also not put it just in front of a microphone so that the electronic devices are not picked up on the mics. And also, if you need to move your microphone around, can you please pick it up by the base and not by the neck. Members of the public are encouraged to follow on social media platforms at London Assembly. For people who use X, please use the hashtag Assembly Environment for this meeting. So, moving on, some of you may recall that exactly a month ago we held a stocktake forum with Londoners on the 3rd of February. And so we're going to start today's proceedings with a few brief videos to give some idea of what happened at that event. And I can see that someone has already teed up the screens, and we're going to start. The Environment Committee invited people into City Hall to tell us about environmental priorities, what we've done so far, how well it's gone, but also to think about what more we need to be doing for the future. It's been a really, really interesting day with massive participation, academics, local people involved in their community groups. We've had so many people participating today. We've also been incredibly lucky to hear from Lucy Siegel, the writer and broadcaster who brought real passion to her contribution, and also Emma Howard-Boyd, who used to chair the Environment Agency but led the Mayor's London Climate Resilience Review. And it's just been so exciting to hear what more we can be doing on environmental and energy waste, sustainability, food growing, you name it, we discussed it. I think we're going to hear some vox pops.
We want to see London building on its thriving repair and reuse ecosystem, having a reuse target and investing in community-led repair like fixing factories.
For me, the big environmental priority for London should be to address the health impacts of aircraft noise. We should know that health harms are occurring at lower and lower levels. Academic evidence is showing this, and it's vital that we have all that evidence to inform policy making going forwards.
What I'd like to see more of in London is more of a focus on the circular economy. So that means keeping the resources that we've got in use for longer, throwing away much less, making the most of what we've got.
London's priorities for the next 5 years should be, at a minimum, to transform 25% of its grey space into green infrastructure or active and sustainable travel infrastructure.
So, a few challenges thrown down for you there, Deputy Mayor. And I should say that a lot of the questions that we're going to be asking this morning come out of the work that was done by the delegates who attended that event. And so if we don't manage to get through them all, and I have to say we have got quite a long list of questions because we had 75 people there, we would like, if we can, to submit those as written questions to you, if that's okay, for later reply. So, as highlighted in the videos, which I think was rather good, the forum brought together Londoners, policy experts, frontline environmental practitioners to discuss London's environmental challenges. The views and experiences shared there, along with the evidence submitted, are going to shape our work. And as I just said, we're going to inform our questions to you today. Thank you once again for your engagement and interest in these important matters. I would say to Londoners who are listening, and several people have already told me they're going to listen. I hope they're not going to be carrying out some sort of audit of whether we asked the question that they wanted. I hope we don't fail if that is the case. Turning to today's agenda, we have got the usual couple of items to go through. Could I just ask our committee clerk, Asal Fazal, to confirm whether there are any apologies for today's meeting?
Thank you, Chair. No apologies have been received.
Thank you. The next item is declaration of interest. Can I ask the committee to note the recommendation set out at item 2?
Yes.
And has anyone got any other things, interests that they want to declare? Actually, I have a small one. I believe we may touch on community energy later on during the discussion. And this is I don't think this is a pecuniary interest, but I am a member of a local community energy group, which I believe has received funding from the GLA, although I have not personally benefited in any size, shape or form. So I think I'd like that for transparency purposes. Has anyone else got any other declarations that they would like to make? Nope. Okay, minutes of the last meeting, which was a very brief meeting held after the stocktake, 3rd of February. Can those be signed by me as a true record? Thank you. We also have the summary list of actions in the agenda pack. Could I ask the committee to note the completed, closed, ongoing actions arising from previous meetings and additional correspondence received? Thank you. Right, item 5. Deputy Mayor, that's you. We now move on to our main topic of discussion, which is the Q&A with the Deputy Mayor for Energy and Environment. And we have in the chamber Mette Coban, who is the Deputy Mayor, and also accompanying him is Megan Life, who is the Assistant Director of Environment and Energy at the GLA. And as is usual, the first questions fall to me. We've had significant changes to funding for different mandate areas in the Mayor's budget. As part of the GLA's environment budget for 26-27, what are you prioritising and what will we no longer continue working on? And we've noticed that as part of the restructuring, there appears to be a number of redundancies planned in the Energy and Environment team, although possibly some new posts created. And I just wondered if you could unpack what's happening there and why and what the impacts will be.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. And let me also take this as an opportunity to congratulate you and the committee on the event that you held last month. I also had lots of great feedback from it, from all the stakeholders that engaged in it. And I think lots of people felt that was a really valuable input, as well as speaking to the Mayor's office to also hear from Assembly members and to be able to feed them into that. So that's great to see. If you don't mind, I would also want to just take this as an opportunity just to kind of give a bit of an update on the progress that we've made recently in London, particularly in relation to the manifesto commitments. And I'll very swiftly move on to responding to your question. As you all know, last year, particularly, it was the hottest year on record, which was recorded by the Met Office. And the impacts of climate change couldn't be more important, which is why we've been ramping up our delivery on our manifesto commitments. So I wanted to give a quick update on delivery, just so the committee is aware about where we are. First is around making sure that we're cutting bills and making sure that our homes are much more healthier. And energy bills are a constant worry for a lot of Londoners. We know 350,000 households are in fuel poverty. And that's why we built the Warmer Homes London delivery vehicle, which was able to attract £231 million from government for its Warmer Homes plan. That's nearing now its 1,000th retrofitted home in London. We've been able to unlock money for 31 boroughs across the capital. This is specifically targeting low-income households. And we've seen projects in Hackney and other parts of the capital where residents are able to tap into energy generated on the roof of their estate. Last week, I was in Camden, where we went to visit an elderly sheltered home centre where 65 residents were benefiting from the energy generated on their roof, which is having a huge impact. And also, just to say, government's announcement on the Warmer Homes plan and the local power plan, the work that you've been doing on community energy, those were both launched in London, and that's testament to our leadership in this area. Just on clean air, again, we've had huge success since I last came to the committee.
I don't like to interrupt you, but we are going to come on. We've got some really specific questions that came up from the stocktake meeting on cleaning London's air. Where we've got to now would be a good point then, when we come to those questions, for you to make those remarks. I wonder if I could just come back to what you were saying about the Warm Homes plan, because the points that I was just making about moving money around in the budgets, we understood that quite a number of the redundancies planned are in the team that might have been supporting the work around the Warmer Homes plan. And I just wondered if you could unpack why we're losing 30 roles and what the new 15 roles will be and why money's being moved around in that way.
Yeah, so Megan will speak more specifically to the question specifically about staff and the redundancies. What I will just say is that the delivery of Warmer Homes London is a partnership vehicle with London councils. So that shares staff with London councils to deliver that. We don't anticipate that any of the proposed savings will have an impact on our Warmer Homes delivery plan. As you'll be aware, and as the committee will be aware, this is part of a wider package of savings that is going to be delivered across the GLA. And as part of that, Megan is working with the team to make sure that we're able to protect the frontline delivery of our programmes whilst making sure that we're delivering in our way. So we don't have any anticipated shortfall of delivery around Warmer Homes London. And actually what we've seen is, as I've said, is we're now nearing the 1,000th home to be delivered. For the first time in London's history, we're no longer sending money back to government on Warmer Homes on a retrofit, and that's a huge testament to the team who's been delivering on Warmer Homes. And we're still continuing conversations around what we can do to unlock money from government around the new £15 billion, particularly around an integrated settlement as well, which will give London the flexibility it needs to really deliver on that ambition.
Thanks. Shall we come to you, Megan, then, if you can? Because it is a slight concern that, obviously, with the 15 billion announced that the Deputy Mayor's just referred to from the Warmer Homes Plan launched in January, and also further money from the local power arrangement as well, which could go towards these areas. Why are we reducing staff that might help deliver? Hopefully London will get a big slice of that money, and we need the staff to deliver it. Please explain what's going on.
Yes, very happy to. Thanks for having me. So, as you know, the GLA is in a position where it needs to make budget savings. We, as an organisation, are looking to make £10 million worth of savings from our staffing budget. Along with many units and teams across the GLA, the Environment and Energy Unit is impacted by those. I should say at this stage, this is a consultation on staffing changes, so no final decisions have been taken at this stage. You're right that the proposal is to delete 31 posts and create 15, which is a net change of 16. However, four posts were fixed-term contracts that were due to end by the end of May anyway. So it is a material headcount reduction of 12 posts, which, I don't pretend isn't significant. But as the Deputy Mayor has said, what I have sought to do with these proposals is absolutely ensure that we are protecting frontline delivery for our priorities as set out in the delivery plan and the Mayor's manifesto. So, some of that is about acknowledging that the staffing structure that we currently have in place was the right one for a previous context and a previous set of priorities, but things have moved on. So one example is that we don't currently have a team working on the clean and healthy waterways, and part of my staffing proposals, the proposed restructure, is to create a whole team working on clean and healthy waterways in recognition of how big a priority that is for the Mayor. So I don't have any concerns that we won't end up with, sufficient capacity to deliver on all of our existing commitments as set out in the delivery plans and the manifesto commitments. And we certainly have had one eye on changes coming down from government as well. So at this stage, I'm content that there will be sufficient capacity.
OK, so part of my question was about, as part of the GLA's environment budget for 26-27, what are you prioritising and what will you no longer continue working on? So we would be putting more priority onto the clean and healthy waterways and reducing the staff on the Warmer Homes side of things.
We're not reducing or deprioritising Warmer Homes. The point of the mandates and the manifesto is what we're working towards. That's the sort of delivery plan of this administration. What we have seen is that on the Green and Resilient programme, there's been a £5 million addition of budget that has come forward as part of the budgetary proposals. That's recognising our ambition on creating more suitable sites across London.
We've got some questions about that £5 million later.
Of course, yeah. And of course, that's been helped informed by the work that the committee has been doing under the previous chair as well, with Assembly Member Polanski and the work that you've been pushing around getting more suitable sites across London. So more details will follow on how we will utilise that money. Other than the proposals that also Megan spoke about in relation to the energy efficiency, there isn't much material change to what's coming out of the environment. So what we have seen is overall this is a positive for London, and it's focused on protecting our delivery, and that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Okay, so a sort of follow-on to that is about the environment strategy, and which is a legal requirement for the GLA to produce. And the GLA Act states that where the environment strategy is revised, the Mayor must publish it as revised. So the fact that you've not published a revised or an updated environment strategy means that everything in the 2018 strategy still stands. Is that the case?
Yeah, so the environment strategy is obviously the statutory framework of which we operate in, but this administration, in addition to meeting the targets set out in the environment strategy, its sole focus is to deliver the mandates and the manifesto that London has elected the Mayor to deliver on.
So you're saying that anything in those mandates that wasn't in the original 2018 strategy, which still stands, they're in addition to that strategy, not instead?
That's correct, yes.
Thanks, just to be clear. I'm now going to pass on, after those initial questions, to my colleague Joanne McCartney. Assemblymember McCartney, over to you.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor, my question is about engagement with government, because there is an updated national planning policy framework. So my first question is, how are you engaging with the government on that, and what implications does that have for the GLA's approach?
Yeah, so at the moment, the process, as you'll be aware, is the National Planning Policy Framework draft consultation is out. The GLA itself right now is considering its response to that consultation across, which is having input from all areas. In many ways, the existing London plan has been the gold standard, and we've seen, for example, how we've been able to cut emissions in London ahead of national regulations. What we're currently doing is, just to say, is there are ongoing conversations at a senior level with MHCLG on this, and they're continuously meeting to discuss. What's currently happening is across the Environment and Energy Unit, the different teams are feeding in to that response that we'll be setting out in due course, and that will be, available for the committee once we've responded to the consultation as the Mayor's office.
Okay, and is there anything that gives you cause for concern at the moment that you're lobbying hard on?
We're looking at the different areas and trying to see and understand, which one of those areas are like conform with the Mayor's ambitions, particularly on our environmental objectives. Right now, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to go into sort of any detail until we respond to the consultation. But once we've made that consultation response, I'm sure we'll be able to share that.
Okay, that'd be helpful. And can I ask what liaison you've had with Secretary of State Ed Miliband and DESNZ ministers or officials? Is that an ongoing conversation?
Yeah, I regularly have had engagement with DESNZ ministers, including the Secretary of State, Ed Miliband, and also with DEFRA officials as well, ministers, and the Secretary of State there. I recently attended a roundtable with Ed Miliband with other UK mayors ahead of the launch of the Warmer Homes Plan. And during that meeting, we were able to talk about how London is ready. We've set up this Warmer Homes London delivery unit, which, of course, I know that you're also on the board of too. And what we've been advocating in those meetings is to say, we've got the homes, done the feasibilities across the boroughs, give us the money so we can actually get on and deliver on the government's ambition to retrofit 5 million homes by 2030. So that's ongoing conversations that we're having. We're quite hopeful that as the £15 billion gets to a point where they start to divide it across the different regions, London will get its fair share because of our track record on delivery on warmer homes. We've also been engaging with government on community energy specifically, and with the Secretary of State around that. He's been personally himself to visit a number of projects across London, including Minister McCluskey too. We went to visit St Paul's West Hackney, the church, which is the church with the highest number of solar panels in the whole of the UK. We've been showing them the real value of community energy and how the difference it can make when you put power really into the hands of community, deliver clean green energy, but also democratise our energy system here in London. And that's the case we've been making. The other area, finally, I'll just make is around greener schools. As you'll be aware as well, particularly with your portfolio as Deputy Mayor around education, we've had huge success around the delivery of schools. We're going to
come to greener schools later.
Yeah.
Sure. But this is also another area that we have been basically saying, because we had a huge pipeline of schools who applied, we were able to fund 48, but of course we would want to fund more. And what we've been setting out the case for is to say, hey, look, if we had more money, we've got a ready-to-go pipeline where we can get more schools retrofitted.
So it looks like you're having lots of conversations.
Lots of conversations.
Chair, I obviously should declare that I'm a member of the Wilmer Horns Board. I forgot earlier.
Yes, I wish you would immediately. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
And-
so
yeah.
that's just an
And I
additional...
take it with Emma Reynolds and DEFRA, you're having
Yes.
similar... Thank you.
With Emma, just so you're aware, with our engagement with DEFRA around a number of different areas, we had a roundtable recently with Minister Emma Hardy, with the Mayor of London, which was a follow-up on Rosamond's roundtable from a few years ago, and that was looking at, for example, all of the progress that we've made around cleaning London's air, but how do we get public health really at the agenda nationally on improving air quality, and how can other regions learn from what London has done? A key part of what we focused with Emma Hardy on was around, is there some work we can do around how we can create a national campaign around the public communications campaign around raising awareness around air quality, particularly around wood burning and other areas too. As I understand, DEFRA is going to be convening this month a roundtable with campaigners on that issue. So we're very pleased to see the progress that DEFRA has been making.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to move straight on to Assembly Member Zach Polansky, who's going to move on to the Swimmable Rivers and Clean and Healthy Waterways topic.
Thank you. Good morning, Deputy Mayor. When will the Swimmable Rivers Plan be published?
Hopefully very soon. So it's currently in its final stages of being drafted. Once we finalise it, it'll be, I'd imagine it'll be this side of the summer.
Okay. And we had a submission from the Environment Agency that said the draft plan doesn't currently include indicators on water quality and swimming sites. Is that the case?
So there'll be a number of different indicators that will be featured as part of the plan. What I will say, Assembly Member Polansky, is that we've had, one of the great things about this plan is it's had input from over 50 partners. It's truly collaborative, including actually listening to what come out of the report that you led on when you were chair of this committee as well. We're trying to make sure that we've got the right balance between, holding water companies to account, making sure that we've got the right strategy on deliverable actions. What we don't want this to be is just a 10-year plan that goes on the shelf. We want real, tangible, deliverable actions within this mayoral term. The great thing about this plan is it's also backed up through the budgets that we spoke about earlier, which is particularly through the Green and Resilience Delivery Plan. So we've got the Green Routes Fund. A third of Green Routes funding is going towards waterways-related projects. We're also funding SUDS across our city around making sure that our city is much more flood resilient. So we funded 500k towards Flood Ready London Partnership, which is a surface water strategy group. Got money from TfL into that too. So we've got a whole delivery package around how we can actually deliver this, and there will be a number of different indicators that will be attached to the delivery plan.
I love that it's been collaborative. You can't seriously sit there, though, and tell me that it's a Swimmable Rivers Plan and water quality is not going to be an indicator. So I just want to check again, is water quality going to be an indicator?
There will be a number of different indicators in terms of the specifics of what those indicators are. That will be published in due course.
So there's a Swimmable Rivers Plan, but you can't commit that water quality will be an indicator of a swimmable river.
Water quality, as I understand, is one of the key deliverable objectives of the Clean and Healthy Waterways Plan. So there's 4 different areas. One was around water quality. We've got something around inclusion. There's 4 different areas. Water quality is one of the 4 key priorities and objectives of that, of which there will be indicators. So yes, in relation to your question.
That was a lot of words, and I'm trying to piece things together. Will water quality be an indicator? I heard that it was an objective, and so is an objective the same thing as an indicator?
You can come in if you want to. Yeah.
Hi. So, as the Deputy Mayor has said, there are 4 areas identified in the plan, of which one is water quality. Each of those 4 areas has a range of goals associated with it that we want to see, like an objective. And so, within the water quality section, there are a range of goals, and those also have attached to them 1-year and 3-year deliverables. So, yes, to all intents and purposes, there are indicators related to water quality in the plan.
Thank you. I feel like I need a thesaurus for these meetings. Deputy Mayor, how are you planning to assess progress for Mayor's commitment to make rivers swimmable? So I guess it's coming back to the indicators. I hear water quality, but what other indicators might there be?
So a big part of what we're trying to focus on is around inclusion. There are lots of black and brown communities across our city, including myself, who don't know how to swim, partly because we've had, when I was growing up, or lots of other Londoners were growing up, didn't have access to either affordable swimmable sites or to actual swimming lessons, which is why it was a big priority for the Mayor to make sure that he put forward this in his manifesto, of which he was elected on to deliver. And so what we have been doing is working with a number of different partners around understanding how do we make sure we've got 8 swimming pool sites across our city in existence. What we want to do is explore different sites that can come into light, but also make sure that this is done in the right and equitable way, in a way that actually Londoners will feel confident to be able to do so. Of course, its safety is paramount, so that will be a key indicator and assessment as we move forward, and we'll be working with the different agencies, including the Environment Agency, to make sure that that's within our core delivery plan.
I'm really pleased to hear inclusion's being kept at the centre of that plan. In terms of engagement with the Assembly, my understanding, and Assemblymember Cooper's been here longer than I have, but with you, Les, the Environment Committee was regularly consulted and kind of a plan was made in quite a synthetic way. It doesn't feel like we've had a lot of input into this. Obviously, I had a report, I was appreciated, there's a response, but it feels like it's been very kind of siloed. What plans are you making to involve the Environment Committee in these plans?
Well, what I would say firstly is I think this has been truly a collaborative plan. So in each of those different areas that Megan spoke about as well, around water quality inclusion, what we've got is working groups of all of those different partners who regularly meet to make sure that the plan is drafted in a way where it's reflective of all of the partners' aspirations. Your report was incredibly helpful, the committee's report, because it wasn't just your views, but actually it's the views of lots of important environmental groups across this city that you've engaged with during the time of doing the review. And that has been as part of the consideration as what we've been doing across, as we've been drafting the plan. Of course, if there's anything more than that the committee would like to see or to engage in, that's down to the committee.
Can I just come in there, because Assemblymember Polanski hasn't mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it on his behalf. One of our recommendations was that we thought there should be a representative, which we said should probably be the chair, because Assemblymember Polanski was leading on this work. We sort of hoped it would be him. It should have been one of the people who could have been involved in one of these task groups. We have done that big piece of work. We ourselves have engaged a lot with Londoners and done site visits as well. So it's a shame that wasn't something that was able. I understand you're saying, it's been a very collaborative process, but Assemblymember Polanski has just referred to the fact that previous processes have been more collaborative with the Assembly. Was there really no chance at all of Assemblymember Polanski being engaged in one of these task groups? Surely that would have strengthened the relationship with the Assembly Environment Committee.
I mean, for what it's worth, just to be on record, and I've said this publicly before, I very much value the report, and obviously Assemblymember Polanski's input into that too. The task, just so you're all aware, the groups that I'm talking about when they meet, I haven't been involved in them personally. These are sort of more officer-level engagement through these different organisations. Now, of course, if you want to, I'm happy to take that away and see what more we can do. But as I say, the report that was submitted from the Environment Committee is something that we are considering. And I also know that there's lots of the advocates and organisations like River Action and other incredible organisations that I know you work with, Assemblymember Polanski, who've also been voicing a lot of your concerns that you have as well.
Yeah, I suppose the messy situation is that I was invited to an initial roundtable, then uninvited as chair. This isn't about me having a place in the room. I'm not chair anymore, but I do think Assemblymember Cooper should be involved in that task force.
Passing it straight back. Thank you. Although, as this is our last meeting...
Just to be very clear, again, it's not... I just want to set the expectation that there is no... absolutely happy to take any conversation about how the Environment Committee can be involved. And obviously, a big part of this will also be, once we publish the plan, it's actually how we then move forward, right? Because the key thing is about actually how we then deliver the plan. So I think, yes, the Assembly needs to have a role. But just to be very clear, we don't have a task force as such. We had a roundtable. And then what we've had is we've had working groups around each of those different areas. So we don't have, there isn't a task force that I sit on or Megan sits on. We've only had one roundtable, and then it's all been sort of engagement with the different partners and officers.
And then just finally, last week, round about the same time as Gorton and Denton, although I'm sure it's a complete coincidence, the Mayor tweeted out that water companies and regulators must do their part, and seems to be having stronger language towards the water companies. Will you and the Mayor call for water nationalisation?
The Mayor has always been very clear, and as I've always been clear, that Thames Water and water companies have illegally been polluting our rivers and waterways, haven't invested in the infrastructure, which has been an absolute scandal. Just last week in Islington, thousands of residents were impacted by that. And one of the things that we done in response to that was to make sure that we wrote to the Chief Executive to really make sure that Londoners are compensated for, Thames Water's failures. We'll continue to be pushing Thames Water, and we'll continue to be pushing the government to make sure that Londoners aren't paying the price for Thames Water's failures.
I'm not sure Londoners are going to be happy, Deputy Mayor, with the Mayor writing a letter. Will he call for water nationalisation?
The Mayor's been very clear that he is strongly being objective to Londoners paying the price for Thames Water's failures. What the Mayor expects of Thames Water is to engage with government and the regulator to make sure that they're actually delivering for Londoners and not hiking up the price for their illegal polluting of our rivers.
I'm hearing very clearly that both you and the Mayor of London won't call for the nationalisation of Thames Water.
What we're very clear on is that Londoners have already been paying the price. What we're not going to be asking for is Londoners to pay off Thames Water. Thames Water needs to make sure that they get their act together, deliver for Londoners, stop rising the increase on their prices, and actually deliver on the government's regulation around making sure that they're not illegally polluting our rivers. Londoners shouldn't have to pay for Thames Water's failures.
But they are paying. Since privatisation, I think it's £13 billion has been extracted in interest, but they've paid 23 bill payers have paid £23 billion on repairs.
I think we are going to have to.
Okay, can I ask a final question that's slightly... Paul Powsland, the water campaigner, has called on a commission of a sewage survey to find, test and quantify how many sewage outflows there are in London. Is that something you'd support?
I have huge respect for Paul Powsland, particularly work that's done around the roading, and I will need to look into that. But absolutely, we would want to make sure that London's rivers and our waterways aren't being illegally discharged through sewage, and we want to make sure that campaigners like Paul are empowered through the work that they're doing. These are our river guardians, and there's so many incredible activists and campaigners like Paul, and I'm happy to take that away to look into that.
Brilliant. Would you take it away and write to the chair, specifically on the issue of commissioning a sewage survey?
I will look into it, and I'll definitely follow up on it.
Okay, if you can drop a letter back to us, that would be very good. I'm not going to move away from the topic of water, though, because we've got 2 more Assembly members to come in on it. I just thought we were asking the same question a couple of times there, if you don't mind. I'm going to first of all come to Assembly Member Gareth Roberts, who's going to pick up the questioning, and then Assembly Member Mahfouz.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Just touching on the swimmable river site in, it's Kingston, it's border of Kingston and Richmond. We're going to be seeing a plan has come forward from Thames Water regarding the Teddington Direct River Abstraction Scheme, which will see millions of litres of treated effluent pumped into the river just ahead of where the swimming spot's going to be. Do you think that such a scheme is compatible with a swimmable rivers location?
So what we've, as Assembly Member Roberts, because I know we discussed this previously on the committee too, currently we have 8 swimmable sites in London, which we've published in a map. There's been ongoing issues around Teddington, particularly around sort of the consultation, which we responded to, and the Mayor made his position very clear there. The recent announcement around the 13 designated bathing sites in London, in the country, including the one in Kingston, as I understand, was an application from the local group to put that forward. There will be an assessment of that, which we'll find out from government, I think, in May. What I have asked Megan and the team to do from here is that in that process is to engage with the local community group and also with Kingston Council too, to make sure that the GLA is supportive and responsive to whatever the outcome of that may be. I mean, obviously, any designated site of swimmable site, including Teddington, we hope that it's safe, and we wouldn't want it to be delivered in a way that's going to be putting Londoners or our nature or biodiversity at risk.
Okay. So I wonder if I might just press you on the actual question of whether you believe it's compatible. Whether the two can peacefully coexist.
Could I perhaps
sorry, do you mind if you just... What do you mean by what 2 things are compatible?
Having effectively a large pipe pumping millions of litres of treated effluent into the Thames, just right next door to a place which is about to be designated potentially as a swimmable rivers site. And let's not forget that when we spoke to Thames Water earlier, I think it was last year, they said that they would not be looking to filter out forever chemicals. They would not be looking to filter out microplastics. It may be highly treated, but there are still questions to be asked about the quality of the water. So it's a question of whether you think that the two are compatible. Assuming one learns to swim in the next few months, would you swim there?
What I would say is like right now we're talking about, well, I can't swim anyway.
No, but say you did learn.
But hypothetically, like we're talking about hypotheticals right now.
We are.
We are talking about hypotheticals, and
Well, given that neither thing exists, then we have to.
Yeah, and my hope would be that is if it was designated a swimmable site, that all of those things that we're concerned about wouldn't be in place. So given that we're talking about hypotheticals, it's difficult for me to answer that question. But the reality is we just have to wait to see what comes out of the application that's been submitted to DEFRA.
OK, I would have thought it was a very easy question to answer, and the answer is obviously no. But Megan's wanted to come in.
Thank you. Just a technical clarification on what designation means. So the main thing that a designation from government means for a bathing site is that it puts in place a framework of regular testing to ensure that the site is safe for people to be bathing there. So the answer to your question about whether those two things are compatible will presumably come out of the regular testing on water quality that we put in place if this site is given designation in May.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to move on to Assembly Member Mahfouz, who's going to ask about the £5 million funding that we were just discussing earlier.
Thanks, Chair. So we know you're very much focused on delivery. In addition to the Green Routes Fund, which we'll come to later, you've now created a £5 million fund to deliver on swimmable rivers. What are your expectations of what that funding will deliver and by when?
Yeah, thank you, Assembly Mahfouz. I think just to use this again as an opportunity about the importance of why we've put that £5 million towards swimmable rivers. It's because we know that for far too long, Londoners haven't had access to these incredible blue spaces that as our city is built around. We've got 41 rivers, 300 streams, and they've been completely neglected for many, many decades. And the Mayor very much sees this as a social and racial justice issue. What the Mayor is very keen on is to make sure, as well as delivering the Clean and Healthy Waterways Plan, is there are tangible benefits that Londoners can look and feel and see over the next 3 years. One of the key things for him was to make sure that we had a map where Londoners can actually access to understand where are these 8 swimmable sites that we currently have, like the West Reservoir in Hackney. But then also it's about actually, are there other sites that we could identify? What we are going to be doing, the £5 million, the details of that will be fleshed out and we'll be able to announce that very soon. But what we will see is hopefully, and the team is working on, is sites where we think we can actually make a real difference to water quality and actually improving that for Londoners to be able to access. There's also some incredible things happening across the city. I mean, just outside, last week we announced the Royal Docks floating Lido, which is going to be incredible, and that's going to be accessible for Londoners as well. So hopefully what we want to see is that by the time we get to the end of this mayoral term, we have more designated sites for Londoners to be able to access their blue rivers.
So this money is in for the next financial year. You've said that you'll be publishing soon in terms of what that funding will look to deliver. How confident can you be in terms of making sure that that £5 million will make a tangible difference come this time next year?
Yeah, so what we've announced is obviously the £5 million. What we're working towards currently with Megan and the team is trying to, as Megan said, there are some structural changes that we're making at the GLA to make sure that, firstly, we're equipped to be able to actually deliver this financial resource that we've got to deliver swimmable sites, and that we've got the expertise to be able to actually deliver on swimmable sites. So that's part one. Secondly, the team is currently working on, and by the way, I should just say, and I think the Environment Committee also heard from campaigners on where could there be potential sites as well. So I don't think it's about reinventing the wheel. I think part of it is about actually listening to environmental groups who've already been sort of identifying sites and Londoners. And so, yes, I'm very confident that the £5 million will be able to make a difference. What I would just say is in addition to that, is what we're hoping to do, in addition to the £5 million, is looking at how we can leverage that money to also get partners to really boost the financial input that we're putting in. And we've been doing what we have seen where that's been successful, like Warmer Homes London, for example, and the money we've been able to unlock through carbon offsetting or other areas through councils, is that hopefully, this £5 million is a down payment from the Mayor of London, and what we'll be asking of other partners is to make a contribution to that.
So would you envisage, I mean, you're talking about the process there in terms of obviously you've got to do the recruitment, make sure that the team is in place, do further engagement with community and London stakeholders. When would you look to be publishing that report in terms of what that £5 million will be doing come next financial year?
So it won't be a report as such. And I think we've done a lot of engagement on waterways and swimmable sites. So we don't want this to be an exhaustive process, which is going to lose us time. We want to move very quickly around that. I don't have a timeline on when we'll be able to specifically outline what the £5 million will be spent on, but that's currently what we're working towards. And as soon as we get an update, we'll be in a position to be able to update you on that.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Had a notification that Assemblymember Tom Turrell would like to come in briefly.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a very quick. Good morning, Mette. Just to say, so last June, Thames Water received a record fine of £122 million. Related to that, obviously, it is the responsibility of councils to invest in cleaning up rivers, things like desilting. But obviously, we know the funding crisis facing councils at the moment. Because of that, I wrote to the Chancellor to ask that £122 million be broken down and given to London's councils to invest in safer water bodies. Or cleaner water bodies. Sadly, she rejected that call. But as a general rule, any fines that water companies like Thames Water receive, do you think that money should be given to councils to reinvest in in improving the quality of our rivers?
Look, I'm always going to be the biggest fan of councils getting more money in all areas. I spent 10 years as a local councillor, and unfortunately for me, from year 1 to year 10, every year the conversation, because of the austerity that we had from the previous government, was what do we stop spending in comparison to the previous year. And we know how difficult local councils and the pressures that they've been facing over the past 14 years. And so I'm always going to be advocating for more money for local government, not just money, but also to make sure that they've got the right powers and the devolved
just in the
power
interest of time, could I just take that as a yes thing? So.
I'm not sure that was a yes or a no, but you can read into it what you will, I think, at this point. So we're going to move on to another topic area, which is the questioning is going to start with Assemblymember Anne Clark, and we're going to be talking now about climate resilience.
Yeah, good morning to you both. And we can't have this committee without touching on all that you've been doing around climate resistance and really moving forward London in terms of green strategies. So Mette, I'll come to you. How is the Mayor prioritising climate resilience and implementing the recommendations of the London Climate Resilience Review and the London Surface Water Strategy?
Thank you, Assemblymember Clark. And look, as I was saying in my brief opening remarks, as we saw in London last year, the impacts of climate change isn't something in the distant future. We're seeing the real-life impacts of that here and now. We had 4 extreme heat waves in London, and the difference between the heat waves last year in comparison to previous years that they were for much more longer extended periods. And we know that has a huge impact on some of our elderly, on children, those with underlying health conditions, particularly for some of our most vulnerable residents in low house incomes, where the buildings aren't really built for that purpose. So there's a number of ways in which we're making sure that London is more resilient. The first thing is we'll be publishing our heat risk plan, working together with London councils, and that was one of the recommendations that came out of the London Climate Resilience Review. It's about setting the vision and actually a plan for how we deal with heat. What we want to do is make sure that plan has action attached to it, together with the financial support across the different partners to be able to deliver that. And that's also been informed by some of the pilot projects that we've been doing and we've funded through the Green and Resilience Delivery Programme. For example, we've been doing some retrofit work in Chobham Manor in Newham, particularly around making sure that some of our homes are much more cooler, but also adaptable to winter times, so it could be much more warmer as well. I should just say a big part of our resilience plan, and I think sometimes we talk about these things in silo, is the work that we're also doing around warmer homes, because it's not just about delivering warmer homes to reduce energy bills, but it's also about making sure that we've got cooler homes when it's high temperatures too. Also deals with issues around health, particularly around damp and mold as well, where we know that properties are impacted by that. What I would just say, in addition to that, we've been heavily sort of accelerating our work on the London Surface Water Strategy. We published our strategy, the Flood Ready London Partnership, which brought together lots of different agencies, Transport for London, London Fire Brigade, many different agencies, Environment Agency, which the Mayor convened in response to the flash floods in 2021. In response to the strategy being delivered, or as a follow-up to that, what we have done now is we've established catchment areas, and those catchment areas are basically bringing together some of the boroughs, recognising that water doesn't travel from, I don't know, Southwark to Lambeth and say, hey, I'm stopping here because there's a borough border here. We've got to get the boroughs working much more close together with the agencies, and we're looking at how we could fundraise around that and the financing models. We put 500 grand towards that. Transport for London put money behind that as well. We've got further money coming forward, and we're going to be making some plans and announcements around that. So we are starting to deliver around resilience, around flood resilience, which is great. We're also doing some work, particularly around in recommendation 38. There was a specific recommendation around whether the GLA could identify, particularly in relation to the wider conversation around flood defences and around our land. We've been working with Transport for London to identify land where we can make sure that we've got the right flood defences in place to make sure that London is more resilient to the impacts of climate change. And as I understand, that work is ongoing. We have identified land, and we're going to be working with consultants to understand how we could best work with Environment Agency on that. So there's lots happening in this space, whether it's from retrofit, whether it's around the work we're doing around SUDS delivery and making sure that the utilities and infrastructure is integrated into that work, whether it's around the cooler homes, more access to green space, Green Routes funding. We've been funding loads of work around adaptation, around Green Routes funding as well. We've also been looking at, which we can't yet announce, but we've got a strategic funding plot which sits within the Green and Resilience Delivery Plan. And that's where we're going to be looking at, for example, other areas which we can sort of hope to make sure that London is more resilient.
That's great. I mean, I know just walking around my constituency and sometimes even with you, Mette, we've seen SUD streams together. We were just visiting Henderson Court in Camden with the leader of the council, and just seeing that work that the boroughs are doing, but also the work that the boroughs are doing collectively with City Hall. It's remarkable to see that work and to see how we're working across our city to not just retrofit because it's good for the environment, but we're doing these things because it's actually good for the people who live there. It's good for their bills, and actually things like the SUD streams and the surface water drainage is quite beautiful when it's installed. It really does. It does really improve our cityscape as well. I think that's fully answered both questions, Chair. So I'll hand back to you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move straight on to Assembly Member Tom Turrell, who's going to talk about the Thames Barrier.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think this what current work is the GLA undertaking ahead of the 2040 decision decision point on long-term flood defence operations options for the Thames Barrier?
Yeah, thank you, Assembly Member. And this is an obviously important conversation, because we know that we need to make sure that Londoners, and the current barrier is obviously being incredibly important in protecting Londoners from flooding. So we're currently working together to answer your question specifically. We've been working as part of the Thames Estuary plan to make sure that we're working with the Environment Agency to identify funding and locations. As I understand, obviously there's conversations around the timeline around the barrier and about it being brought forward. We're part and engaged in that conversation. As I understand, officers are working as part of the working group. I should just say, obviously, there's no formal role for the GLA in terms of the delivery of the barrier. Obviously, it's more government and DEFRA related, but obviously we're an active partner in that, and our officers are engaged in that work with the Environment Agency.
Thank you for that. What progress has the GLA made in conducting an audit of the land that the GLA owns or is responsible for along the Thames, and what steps is the GLA taking to plan any actions needed, such as raising walls?
I think I may have just touched upon this briefly in relation to Assembly Member Clark's question as well, but what we have been doing, Assembly Member Turrell, is we've been working, GLA Property Team has been working with Transport for London to identify land specifically around how we can make sure that we've got the right tidal defences where GLA, the family owns land. I think Megan come in here just to sort of touch about, my understanding is we've got consultants that we're going to be commissioning that could basically be taking that work further.
Yeah, that's right. So we have now audited all of the GLA Group land. So we've identified what land we own that's on the Thames, and we are now in the process of appointing a consultant so that we can identify what investment is needed to raise the barrier.
Excellent.
Defences, I should say.
Thank you very much for that. So, Method, with you. I think it's fairly well documented at this point that this country likes to take its time when it comes to building things and go through various points. So, given that our snail pace approach to building infrastructure, what conversations have you or the Mayor had with government to make sure that this doesn't drop off the radar and then we get to the decision point and realise we need to actually do something about this?
Look, I agree, and I think sometimes, I say this is like, it's really important that some of these issues obviously will exceed our time, even as politicians or people in public office, and we have a role to play in making sure that we're doing the responsible thing to making sure that we're protecting Londoners and our planet, particularly for future generations. What I would just say is just in relation to infrastructure. One of the greatest infrastructure, of course, is the Thames Tideway, which was both delivered on time and on budget and is making a huge difference in diverting millions of tons of sewage away from the River Thames. That the river was once declared as obviously biologically dead, and it's made a huge difference to that. So I do have faith in the British infrastructure will as it is. What we are doing is just in relation to your question, when I have had meetings in the past with ministers on this issue, we have raised this and obviously they are aware of it. So whenever the opportunities come, we will continue to do that. As I say, our team is continuously engaged on this as part of the partnership, working with Environment Agency, and I'm sure that we'll continue those conversations.
Do you think having the decision point in 2040 might now, given the changes that we've seen that you were just talking about in terms of the climate in response to Assemblymember Clark, do you think that's now too far off in the future? Because they're talking about needing this second barrier at a much earlier point than was originally envisaged of 2070. Do we need to be thinking about this a bit more quickly?
Look, I think we live in a climate emergency, and we declared it a climate emergency because it is an emergency, and I think we need everything we'd be thinking about our defence systems, particularly to the impacts of climate change, I think needs to be looked at through that lens. Obviously, we're doing this in partnership and in consultation with the Environment Agency and just making sure that we've got the right information and able to make the right asks of government. Where they tell us that we need to move faster, of course, we'll be listening to the science. This is an administration that listens to science, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass back to Assemblymember Zach Polansky, who's going to ask more about the heat plan.
Thank you. When in the next quarter is the heat plan expected to be published, and what do you expect it to include?
So the heat plan is hopefully going to be delivered in 2026. I'm hoping that we'll be able to publish the plan this side of the summer. The great thing has been, Assemblymember Polansky, is that we've had funding from the European Union on this as part of the Pathway to Resilience and the partnership with London councils on that. What I'm hoping that the heat plan will include is tangible action that the councils need and support to be able to make sure that we are adapting our public realm and our streets to the impacts of extreme heat. We've done some great work. I think the Assembly also visited Kew Gardens recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
And as part of Kew Gardens, I don't know if you remember, but in 2022, during that heat wave they had in 2022, a significant number of their trees were completely damaged. And what we are trying to do is also make sure that we've got the right information and tools given out to councils around the types of trees and the species of trees they should be planting, particularly around the public realm, to make sure that they're absolutely maximising the impact of those trees. And that's part of the work we've been doing with Kew Gardens, the Urban Forestry Commission, obviously the London Urban Forest Partnership. Last week we convened in Kew Gardens. Over 140 stakeholders got together. I was there with them. So there's a lot of work happening around that area. So all of those different bits of work that has been happening hopefully will feature as part of the heat action plan in a way that really sets out tangible action, everything from, as I say, trees to what we're doing around retrofit, all of these different areas.
I'd ask you about trees, but it's coming on later in the topic. Sorry, go on, Megan.
Sorry, I was just going to add one thing that I think is particularly interesting about the heat risk plan, which is the investment plan part of it, because one of the things you will all know is that in the kind of green finance world, mitigation measures and energy efficiency measures have been easy to kind of monetize. It's easy to identify a revenue stream from them. That is less easy with adaptation and resilience measures. And so I think that element of the heat risk plan is a potentially very important part of that work.
Thank you. That's really helpful. It actually links to what I wanted to ask you about, Deputy Mayor. So I'm putting trees aside until later on in the meeting. The workplace, because obviously the heat plan has a major effect on the workplace. What work are you doing with trade unions and workers, but also, frankly, with the bosses? Because actually the cost of action is actually a lot cheaper than the cost of inaction for reasons I think Megan was just starting to outline.
Yeah, I mean, look, trade unions are an absolute essential part of the work that we're doing as part of this administration across all areas around housing delivery, across transport, across what we're doing around making sure that we've got healthy workplaces for our workers. A couple of weeks ago, I went to visit Therapia Lane depot, the tram depot in Croydon, and that is the first depot in the UK that is completely fossil fuel free, pardon me. And the impact, one of the key things that I was very interested in was to see the impact it has on workers. So firstly, it is much, much, much warmer, the depot, and that was the first feedback that I'd had from the workers at the depot. In addition to that, for example, the usage of just, like even the water, whether they're having showers and everything, it was much more efficient, and the workers really enjoyed it. I am part of a coalition of trade unions who work together, particularly around health and air quality specifically. So that includes all the major unions, and we regularly meet on a quarterly basis to kind of hear from them about what we need to do to make sure that workers are protected, particularly from the impacts of climate change. These are ongoing conversations. We continuously correspond together to make sure, whether it's around air quality, whether it's around making sure they're adapting to heat, all of these different areas are helped into, and they are looped in to all these different bits of strategies and documents that we're talking about. So hopefully that is an area that we want their input into the heat risk plan.
Great to hear. And finally, Emma Howard-Boyd, who I think we probably both agree has done exceptional work and has risen above the politics, she said one of her only kind of regrets is that she didn't put in hard timelines for the performance. And she's urging the Mayor and you to engage more with central government.
Yeah, I mean, look, firstly, I should just, again, at every opportunity, I always take the opportunity to thank Emma Howard-Boyd. I wish we had more Emma Howard-Boyds, a real powerhouse in terms of making sure that she's really driven the agenda on resilience, particularly around the investment opportunities, also around resilience too, and all the areas that Megan was talking about around how do we make sure that we finance around adaptation in a way that's much more difficult in relation to mitigation. We are, as I understand it, Megan could correct me if I'm wrong on this, is we're on track to deliver on all the recommendations that are specifically targeted to us. We're always continuously speaking to government across all of the different areas. If there is anything else that we should be pushing forward for, that's conversations that I'll continue to have with Emma. But on a personal level, I speak to Emma all the time. So, I will pick this up with her after this meeting as well. And if there's anything more that we can do that she feels like will really add value to the work that she led and with the London Climate Resilience Review, that's something that we'll do.
I think there's quite a lot to do, but I'll let you have that conversation with Emma. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got Assembly Member Andrew Boff wanted to come in on the point about the heat plan, and he's then going to pick up further questioning on the green belt and green canopy cover. Assembly Member Boff.
Just on the heat plan, what are you putting in place to ensure that there's customer choice when it comes to heat networks?
I don't think yet we're yet in a. I'm not aware of the contents.
Sorry,
of the...
I don't like to. Yes, you have. We have the Warm Homes Plan and the Heat Networks is later. Hold that thought.
There's a lot of questions, and there is to chat about. I'll come on to the green belt. What are the risks to the green cover in London from the Green Belt Review?
I think there's a huge opportunity for how do we make sure that we can really make sure that our green spaces are really vibrant across our city. Yesterday, I had the huge privilege actually of joining Assemblymember Mahfouz in Osterley Park, where we announced just under £1.5 million towards the West London Regional Park Partnership, which is going to be hopefully increasing 585,000 Londoners within a 30-minute walk of that park, which is going to be connected to 7 boroughs, a 13-kilometre footpath connecting Grand Union Canal, but also River Brent as well. It's an incredible partnership. We've got engagement with Ealing Council, Hounslow Council, all of the councils there, National Trust and others. That is an incredible example of how we're investing in green spaces, beautiful green spaces that Londoners could really enjoy. The London Plan, obviously, as you're aware, is still currently in its formulation. As I understand, and later on in this summer, there'll be a draft consultation for that, of which we'll find out more about the review.
Presumably you have fed into the London Plan process as it very much affects the environment of London.
Of course, yeah. Across the whole GLA, we all feed into
what have you
plan.
said about the reduction in protected green spaces that will result from the Greenbelt Review?
What we've said is what we want to do is make sure that we've got green spaces across our city that are thriving, have biodiversity gains to Londoners, that helps nature thrive across our city. What we don't want is inaccessible spaces that Londoners can't access. And actually, one of the things that I'm most proud of here in London is even with the work that we're doing through the Green Roots Fund and the money that we're putting into helping nature thrive across our cities, we're helping reintroduce lots of species across our city. We did with the beavers. We also announced that white storks will be coming back to London after 600 years as well. And that's exactly what this administration is focused on.
So you've accepted that there will be a reduction in protected green spaces in London?
No, that is not what I've accepted. What I've accepted is that we're going to have much more accessible green spaces.
Yeah, but in terms of cover,
well,
taking aside accessibility, I didn't ask about accessibility. Sure. I asked about the amount of green cover that there is in London. It appears to me in your previous response that you accepted that that was going to reduce and that you're going to just reallocate.
At the moment, it's hypothetical because we haven't yet seen the London Plan, so we'll have to wait to see what comes out of the London Plan. What the Mayor and I are very clear about is we want to make sure that London is 47% spatially green, but a huge chunk of that is actually inaccessible for Londoners. What we're doing across this area is to make sure that Londoners have more access to green space, and that's what the Green and Resilience Delivery funding and programme delivers on. But also with the Mayor's comments
Can I just go
back
to one of those pieces of information you said? You said that 47% of London is green, and yet the GLA progress report said that over 50% of London is
That's
green.
including blue spaces, not the green spaces is 47%. Right. I'm happy to be corrected on that.
Yeah. Now, but surely if you're going to be reallocated, you're not going to, for example, are you going to have a like-for-like policy? Is the GLA going to have a like-for-like? Are you going to, in removing parks and green spaces in London, are you going to put the equivalent size elsewhere?
Well, what we want to see, what the Mayor's been very clear about his plan for housing in the city, is we want to see less things like car parks. We want to see less things like private golf courses, which isn't open for Londoners, or land that has no benefit to biodiversity or nature.
Right, so
that's what the Mayor is very keen on, and that's what we'll be delivering on.
Can you therefore guarantee that you're not going to build on any parks?
What we can guarantee is that we're going to continue to create more green spaces and access for Londoners.
So you can't guarantee...
Well, we're talking about hypotheticals right now. We're going to have to wait to see what the London Plan says.
You're feeding into the London Plan process, and as far as I know, you're the Deputy Mayor, so, you know, you're a good place to go for guarantees. So you're saying that you cannot guarantee that parks will be built on?
What I'm saying to you is that this Mayor's record is the best record on delivering more parks and green spaces for Londoners.
Let's ask a nice binary question, which is a yes or no. Can you guarantee that no parks will be built on?
We are not building on places that are...
So yes or no? No, you can't? Yes, you can?
We're talking about hypotheticals.
Assemblymember Boff.
It's not a hypothetical.
Assemblymember Boff, he is the Deputy Mayor for Energy and Environment. I think the only person who could guarantee it.
Well, I think
would be
I think, Chair, green
Deputy Mayor
spaces in
planning.
London are very important for the environment. The cover of green spaces.
And I think the Deputy Mayor has said that.
It appears like the policies of the Reform and Labour parties are going to reduce that.
I think you've had a couple of goes at trying to get the Deputy Mayor to answer that question, and I do think we need to move on.
Okay.
And I just did that to Assembly Member Polanski over his
Okay.
nationalisation of water question as well.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I'm going to skip that one. I'll go to another one. You've covered that. The London Parks and Gardens Trust told us that they were at risk of being removed as statutory consultees. What would your approach be, and what would your representations be to government over this proposal?
As I understand, and Megan can correct me, but we don't have any statutory consultees of the London Plan, do we?
No. Deputy Mayor, it's in development, not in terms of statutory consultees on the London Plan. They have been, up until now, a statutory consultee on developments. Yes. That's actually our question.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
there is currently a proposal from government to remove them as statutory consultees. They are the voice of those conservationists who love our green spaces, and they will be cut out as statutory consultees should the government's proposals go ahead. And I want to know what representations you have made to the government to ensure that they remain as statutory consultees.
I'm happy to take that away, but this is, as I say, the London Plan doesn't have any statutory consultees. So
No, I know that.
Yeah.
I know that.
But we could definitely certainly take that away and look into that.
It's about the representation.
Yeah.
And what representations have you made to the mayor with regard to the protection, the green cover in London?
Me to the mayor?
Yes.
Well, I speak to the mayor all the time.
So what have you said to him about green cover in London?
What the mayor has asked me to do is to make sure.
I know he tells you what to do, but you, as the deputy mayor for environment, presumably are informing him.
I am, and what he's delivering on that. So one of the things that I've asked him, Assemblyman Boff, is to give me the right financial backing to be able to deliver and help improve green access space for Londoners.
Yeah, I didn't ask you about that
he's given me £12 million to invest in Londoners.
We're getting a lot of answers.
He's given me £12 million to invest in Londoners.
To which there's been no question,
Well, I'm giving you an answer.
Which is lovely.
Yeah.
What representations have you made to the mayor about the reduction in green space that's going to come from the Greenbelt Review?
I've asked the mayor to give me more support around how we can invest in our parks and green spaces. What he's done in return is he's delivered the most ambitious Green Routes programme that we've had, £12 million.
So you haven't made any representations to the mayor about the reduction of green spaces. I mean, this is
I think you're hearing what you want to hear.
I do hope after this, Deputy Mayor, that you go back and look at this, because it's really quite amusing, the fact that you cannot answer a question.
I would hope that you agree with me that London's green spaces are open and accessible to all Londoners, regardless of their background. And what the mayor's plans is to make sure that we can invest much more into green space. That's what our Green Routes programme does.
Of course I do, which is why I spend a lot of time making representations to the Labour-run Barking Council who want to get rid of green space in London.
The final thing I would just say on this, because I think we're going back and forth over something that's hypothetical.
Well, if you were to answer a question, it would be quicker.
Let's look at the facts. The facts are yesterday. The facts are yesterday. The mayor announced £1.5 million to help increase access for 585,000 Londoners to be within a 30-minute walk.
Does that increase the space, the green space that there will be in London?
That is the facts. And that's all I can argue.
So this is so much fun. We're going to have to go back. I can expect a tweet on this one.
I think
of course, go for it.
I think what we will expect, though, is if you can write to us about the issue that has been raised with us during our investigation into the situation relating to parks, which are under heavy pressure because of increasing population, particularly around smaller parks in inner city areas, which are really important to people who, we're talking about access here to parks and green spaces, and we have been building up and density has been increasing. So if you could write to us on this point about the London Parks and Gardens Trust raised with us the issue that they would be removed as a statutory consultee in developments, and it's in developments not relating to the London Plan. And
I would look into that,
if you can write to us and say that you will be defending them retaining that, or whether you've not commented on that as yet. We as a committee feel that they should continue to be consulted on individual developments, not relating to development of new London Plan, because they are the ones who are very often very involved in these local parks. They have that knowledge, they know who uses them, they encourage people into using them, which I thought was very much part of the social justice area that we've been talking about intermittently during this discussion. Now, I had two indications before we came to this section that Assemblymember McCartney might want to come in on green spaces and Assemblymember Roberts. So I'm going to take them both briefly and then we're going to move on again.
Thank you. You're aware, obviously, of the government's proposed new town in Enfield on Greenbelt land, and understandably it's caused some local concern, particularly amongst environmental groups. We want any development to be sustainable, which means better transport links and metroisation of our rail line there. But we also need to make sure that the environment is at the heart of any decisions that are being made. So can I just check that your team is actually on top of this, is involved in discussions and will be making the case that any development takes as small a parcel of Greenbelt as possible and that environmental issues are at its heart?
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely, and Megan can come in on this specifically, but just to assure the committee, that is always our sort of first and foremost duty to make sure that environmental considerations are featured of that. I think it's wrong to suggest that it's housing v nature. I think we can have both. Actually, what we get is through investment in housing, we can unlock great things like around flood resilience, around improving biodiversity, around improving access to green space as well. What we want is places where Londoners can really access, and hopefully that's what's going to be delivered through this.
Yes, to confirm that my green infrastructure team work extremely closely with both the regen team within the GLA and the planning team within the GLA to make sure that where development were to happen on the green belt, that we are absolutely taking the opportunity to demonstrate best practice in terms of combining access to high quality nature with housing delivery, using the tools and rules that we have at our disposal, including biodiversity net gain and urban greening factor, to make sure that we can combine both of those things effectively to deliver, very livable, healthy neighbourhoods for Londoners.
Okay, thank you. And I got a feeling we'll be coming back to this in the next few years. Thank you.
It's great to hear you both. It's almost as if you read my rapporteurship report on biodiversity and new housing developments, which introduced both the biodiversity net gain and urban greening factor in that report. And I was happy to see them go into the London Plan in advance of BNG being picked up nationally. Assemblymember Robert.
Thank you, Chair. On the 20th of June 2025, the Environment Committee wrote to the Mayor in response to the May 2025 Towards a New London Plan consultation, recommending that the Mayor should prioritise releasing brownfield land first. Similarly, the Planning and Regeneration Committee also responded to the consultation, highlighting the importance of prioritising brownfield land before considering greenbelt release. To the best of your knowledge, have those recommendations been taken on board?
The Mayor's been very clear that brownfield's still first.
Yeah. Excellent. On the subject of various site allocations and sites which are under consideration, have you had personal oversight of each of the sites which are being considered across the capital?
What I do know is that the environment team, led by Megan, has been feeding into as part of that process.
Okay, so you've not seen them yourself?
It's continuously evolving, but the team is regularly engaged in that conversation.
I really would appreciate an answer to the question. It's very simple. Have you seen the sites or not?
No.
No. There we go. That wasn't hard. We heard earlier that you want to... things like car parks are less important. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. What we want is we want more places where Londoners could actually enjoy access, but also we've got a huge, as you know, housing crisis in the city, and what we'd rather is that people have affordable housing, affordable rent,
I'm
rather
arguing,
than car parks.
I'm not arguing, I'm just asking questions. That's what we're here for. So things like car parks, less important. Golf courses, you say less important?
Yes, less important.
bit more equivocal on public parks.
Very important.
Okay, so you would oppose that. Allotments?
Important.
Important. Nature reserves?
Important.
Okay, so would you publicly oppose any London plan which sought, in any London borough, to declassify allotments, nature reserves and public parks?
What I would just say in response to Assemblymember Roberts is that right now, what we're developing is obviously, as you know, the London Plan process. The Mayor's been very clear that we're targeting brownfield sites first. Yep. And even on the Greenbelt sites that we said that we will review, it will be those that are designated Greenbelt but actually has no benefit to our green spaces and has no biodiversity and has no nature. As you know, some of these places that have been designated actually aren't very nice and green space and aren't accessible. And so we will be absolutely targeting those. What we won't be targeting is the sort of green spaces that Londoners watching this committee will imagine as like a public park.
Okay, so just I mean, I did make a note that you want to see more things that enhance biodiversity, such as, I would suggest, allotments, nature reserves and public parks. So would you publicly oppose any measures within the new London Plan which would declassify and seek to build on allotments, nature reserves and public parks?
I am going to come... Right. I will respond, but I can see Megan itching to come in. I will come into your point. Go on.
Well, I was just going to, make an obvious statement of fact that the planning process is about taking into account a very wide range of different priorities and considerations across the entire breadth of work across the GLA, not just environmental considerations. And so they will be weighing up the kind of trade-offs and competing priorities as part of setting any policies within the London Plan. And so, at no point should we be commenting in a vacuum on one specific policy area.
Oh, well, just before I bring the Mayor in, it's just that I asked the Mayor this...
Deputy Mayor.
I think he's only the Deputy Mayor. Only the Deputy Mayor at the moment, Assemblymember Roberts.
I was prognosticating, Chair. Before I bring in the Deputy Mayor, the reason why I asked is that at July Mayor's questions of last year, I asked the Mayor directly whether he would recognise allotments, public parks and nature reserves as things which he would declassify, and he said no. So I'm just offering the Deputy Mayor the opportunity to agree with the Mayor.
Yeah, I always agree with the Mayor. And just to say as well, as I say, our main target is to target golf courses. I believe we've got 131 golf courses in London, which is equivalent to the space of the Royal Borough of Greenwich. These are the sorts of things that we want to take away and actually make sure that we're delivering on housing needs. We know so many young Londoners are struggling to grow up in the place that they call home because of the challenges that we've had. And so that's absolute priority for the Mayor to deliver on housing, but also making sure that we improve our parks and green spaces.
Okay, so hands off allotments, nature reserves and public parks. Is that the message from the Deputy Mayor?
Assemblymember Roberts, I think you've been... And as you very, very well know, and as was being touched on by Megan, the planning balance is considered on each scheme as it comes forward, and sometimes the issue of the very special circumstances, VSC, is applied by the planners, and the balance then, I would tend to agree with you, and I wouldn't say that there could be very special circumstances when metropolitan open land allotments or sites of importance to the conservation of nature, etc., should be built on, but as we know, sometimes that has happened, and that is not within the purview of the Deputy Mayor. So I am going to move on.
Thank you.
As it turns out, I'm going to move on to myself, because I'm going to ask you some questions about trees. And I would just point out that I was at Kew last week, and I was there for the whole of the day, because I was invited as an Assembly member and a member of this committee. So I would just pose that as an example of how Assembly members being included in working groups, discussing something in detail, I don't think would have harmed us being involved in the working groups, looking at the clean and healthy waterways development. Kew were very happy to invite me last year, when I wasn't the chair, and this time when I am the chair. So the invitation was to a member of the Environment Committee to be party to very detailed discussions. So coming back to the research that Kew has been carried out, and we did a couple of other visits to Kew as a complete committee, and we've seen some of the work they're doing. How does the GLA plan to implement the findings from Kew Gardens? Really important research. The main report was published in November 25, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, the work that Kew Gardens does, as well as being a beautiful space for people to open and access and enjoy.
Apart from the noisy aeroplanes.
Yes. Is obviously, as you say, is the incredible depth and breadth it has in terms of the scientific knowledge. Really adds to our capital and actually helps plug in gaps in terms of our team, for example, where we don't always have the capacity to understand to move forward on our objectives. And so one of the things that we've done from that research that has been incredible is actually using the research and the data that's actually helped inform the London Public Realm tree map. This have, as I understand, over 1,000 users on a weekly basis, and this has been incredible in terms of making sure that actually we're helping inform all of our stakeholders around London, including Londoners themselves, to be able to identify and understand how we interact with our trees, how we maintain them, what species of trees we should be planting in the first place. I mentioned earlier, we use that research also for a toolkit with boroughs, working with London councils. I know from experience, a lot of councils, some councils don't even have tree officers because of the financial pressures, and they don't have the capacity to even understand the sort of, like what rollout of trees need to happen to really create the shading. And so through creating that toolkit together in partnership with London councils and the research that's been informed through Kew Gardens, we've been able to help inform a lot of the green infrastructure strategies across the different boroughs. In addition to that, we've also yesterday announced the London Green Infrastructure Framework as well. We're developing the local nature recovery strategy too. A lot of this work has been helped inform from the London Urban Forest Partnership, from the Kew Gardens research. There's a whole bunch of work that the green infrastructure team is leading on. And one of the job that both myself and Megan is often trying to do is trying to make sure that they're all looped into one bigger sort of picture and not sort of working in silos.
So when you talk about the toolkit with London councils, is that something that's in development or has been developed?
I understand that that's already been developed and has already been offered to councils, but I'm happy to further clarify that.
Could you?
Yes.
That would be really helpful. And certainly the issue about the lack of tree officers, we heard directly from representatives from the London Tree Officers Association who actually were at Kew last week. And obviously it's very difficult if you don't have a specific tree officer. Now, one of the points that was being made extensively by a lot of the practitioners in the room, obviously I am not a practitioner, so it was actually quite a privilege to be there with them, is this big issue, which is about planting trees, and we may come back to that in a minute because I know Assemblymember Boff wants to come in, but then the whole issue about establishing trees and then maintaining them and seeing them from just being, a tiny plant or even a whip into their full canopy. Is this whole area around moving away from perhaps numbers of trees planted towards establishing trees properly, is that something we're going to incorporate?
Yeah, there was a very interesting speaker. I'm trying to remember his name. I think he was from... I'm trying to think if it was from Sweden. I can't remember. Was it one of the botanic gardens from another country who attended the event last week? And he was talking specifically about this point that you mentioned, Assemblymember Cooper, which is around getting away from the kind of like obsession around let's have so and so many trees, but actually getting the right quality of trees in place. And that's actually what we're really focused on. So I can't say much more now about the forthcoming announcements that we'll be making, but actually a big part of our focus has been around equity for London. So it's trying to make sure, and that's what the LGIF and also the LNRS will help inform, which is around making sure that we're mapping London in a way that really takes into account lots of different factors around deprivation, air quality, all of these sort of factors are incredibly important. But it's also around, actually, as you rightly say, it's making sure that we're getting the right types of trees and being less obsessed about however many thousands of trees we're planting, but actually more about getting the right number of trees and the right species of trees into our community, but also done in a way where they can also be maintained too, because as you rightly say, the big challenge is obviously planting these trees, and then, if the communities don't feel a sense of ownership over the delivery of the trees, sometimes actually what you see is that, you know, they could be damaged by, you know, people don't take care of them. So we need to make sure we've got that right.
So, I mean, City Hall, the GLA has great convening power, and this strikes me as being one of those areas. We've talked about this a lot. Assemblyman McCartney has been particularly passionate about street trees. What we have found is that even if you have got a tree officer locally in your council, making sure that particular trees are cared for during a hot period and so on and so forth. It's almost impossible to put too much water into a tree because they have a massive root system, although sometimes people put, you know, what they think is a lot, and of course it's actually not enough. Is there any way in which we are going to get involved from City Hall in terms of, for example, encouraging schools to adopt the trees that are just outside the school, or encouraging children to go home and persuade their parents to form a tree partnership in their street and adopt the trees outside their own house? This is the only way, surely, that we're going to be able to maintain trees properly and to see them thrive, is to really involve schools, communities, individuals who love trees in caring for the trees, because it is quite difficult living in a pavement in a city. It's actually more difficult to do that, and we saw the damage that happened in a nice open space like Kew. Actually, Kew's a bit of a hotspot, but we'll leave the urban heat island effect and how it's patchy to another discussion.
That is a great idea, and actually, as part of the Green Roots funding for the second round, one of our key areas of target was around trying to encourage more applications, particularly around exactly what you described, which is because the Green Roots funding is specifically designed to get more community and grassroots involvement around, you know, nature and green spaces. And actually, one of the key areas that we both asked of the team was to say we need more applications related to trees, because we had loads of other applications, but less so around trees. As you know, we've got the Greener Schools programme, which obviously delivers on retrofit. But we've also got so many other things happening around the schools. So I would be happy to take this away, because I think that's a
Well, I'm very happy to speak to you further about this, because it's something I'm very passionate about, and I know that it's something that children are also very
100%.
Interested in, as well as their families outside their own house. Sorry, I think Megan was also wanting to come in there as well.
It's a very small point. So I was just going to clarify that, or confirm that under the Green Roots Fund, any money that we provide for tree planting also has 3 years worth of follow-up money to ensure that the kind of ongoing watering and protection work that's needed to establish those trees properly is done.
Great. So that's could go into something like the sort of tree community partnership model that I was just referring to. OK, that's great. We are going to move on to the Green Roots funding. However, I've noticed that it's almost exactly 11:30. So I'm going to say that we'll have a 5. Did you want to do something just on trees? Just on trees. You want to plant trees, or you want to maintain trees?
I remember plant a tree in '73, but then again, I'm very old.
OK, you might be you might be alone in that memory, Andrew. It's not a competition about who's oldest here.
Okay.
Come on, moving on.
How many trees has the mayor planted since he came into office?
It's planted 620,000.
So he started off with a target for 2 million, and 10 years later.
I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. That was, you know, the mayor has.
No, I'm just trying to clarify.
It's 620,000 is how many has been planted.
Yeah, 620,000. So it seems to me, and you talked earlier about the right kind of tree. Is that right? That we need to plant the right kind of tree. It appears to me that we're going to, you just stick a word before an ambition, and then that diminishes it. Accessible green space means less green space. The right kind of tree means less trees. Isn't it the case that the mayor is rolling back on all his commitments from his original manifesto?
Andrew was, Assemblymember Boff was not a member of the committee when we did the visit to Kew, and when we heard from all of the people running nurseries, the Tree Officers Association at London Parks, about the need to review what is considered to be the right kind of trees. So
yes, I'm sure there are, but it's whether or not the mayor is using the right kind of tree. I've never believed in planting the wrong kind of tree.
Well, the Deputy Mayor is reflecting something that has emerged in the last period of time.
But what I'm trying to ascertain is that the Mayor is rolling back on all his environmental commitments by sticking an adjective in front of them.
And I'm going to draw this part of the discussion to a close, and we're going to now have a 5-minute break. Sorry, need to do it with it. Welcome back to this reconvened meeting of the March London Environment Committee, and as well as our guests, Deputy Mayor Mette Coban and Megan Life, the Assistant Director for Energy and Environment. We've also now been joined by Poppy Lyle, who is one of the important people to have with us, who's Head of Air Quality. And we will be coming on to air quality shortly. And we've saved that until you were able to join us, Poppy. So thank you for being here. I'm now going to pass back to Assembly Member Anne Clark, who's going to pick up the questioning on the Green Roots Fund. There's some quite specific things that people who attended our Stocktake Forum were interested in, and some of that's reflected in these questions.
Thank you for that, and good morning, Poppy. On the Green Roots Fund, I mean, excitingly, the next round closes the 28th of May, so that's good news. And obviously, that's the grants that community groups are able to acquire is quite significant and is enough to make a real change on local issues. One of the things that came out of the round table, though, was some people who weren't successful in round one. Obviously, luckily, we did have 26 winners, and looking through the projects, there's quite a lot that happened across London. But the groups that weren't successful, have you updated the guidance for applicants in future rounds so that people who weren't successful are pretty clear on reasons that they weren't successful, and if it's worth them applying again?
Yeah, firstly, what I would just say is the Green Roots Fund has been, in many ways, it's guilty of its own success because it's been so open and accessible. We've had like hundreds of applications for the Green Roots Fund, and so inevitably there are some projects that are still really good, and in normal times we'll probably get the funding, but it's really difficult when you're having to choose between over 100 applications that are all, good quality and in-demand projects from a lot of these communities. And of course, we've got a limited number of projects that we can fund. We funded 26 of those projects, and it's round one. Some of those of which I spoke about earlier, we're going to be, in addition to the beavers that we've got in Ealing and in Enfield, we've also got beavers going now to Barking. We've got the white storks that will be returning to London after 600 years in Dagenham. We've got so many other incredible projects that are going to be happening across our city. As far as I'm aware, the Green Roots team regularly host webinars and other sessions as well where they are able to engage with lots of different groups. So those groups who have been unsuccessful, as I understand, there will be a guidance for them and they can come back and apply again. And what we, as I said, in the first round, we didn't have as many applications around trees, for example, and that was something that specifically the team was targeting for the second round. So by no means, if you haven't been successful, does that mean that you won't get funding? It could have been that literally there was just a tight allocation in that round, but you may be successful in future rounds.
Just to add to that every applicant who wasn't successful got feedback on why they weren't successful, and in particular, we worked really intensively with the kind of near misses to support them to apply to the next round, so that they might have a very good chance of being successful. I would just encourage applicants to pay attention to the kind of priority areas, so waterways will always be a priority, so that, they're more likely to get in under that. But the final thing I would say is that for this latest round, we have published the London Green Infrastructure Framework, and the whole purpose of that is to try to direct all of our investment, both our own and our partners, to areas where it's needed most. And so we expect applicants to be kind of working with the tools in the London Green Infrastructure Framework to identify areas of really high need and low provision, and to be focusing their application there. And that will really help. That will be very meaningful to us when we're considering applications.
Is it also just worthwhile, sorry, I think this bit of information I think is really important to include. When we designed the Green Roots Fund, we've also designed it in such a way where, of course, there's an investment from City Hall, but the mechanism of the funding is also able to attract other funders to contribute to the pot too. So part of my job is trying to get other finance, basically, to be able to put into the Green Roots Fund. So hopefully we've got 12 million, but we're also talking to Transport for London and others as well to see if they can also make a contribution to the Green Roots Fund, which will, what that will then do is hopefully be able to fund some of those projects that just fall short. Because the argument I've been making to a lot of funders is to say, look, we've got a pipeline of events. Our a pipeline of organisations and projects ready to go if we can get the funding, and that's what the team has been working on.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you for that. And what measures are in place to evaluate the long-term impact of these projects?
Yeah, so the team, what we have done is we've designed the evaluation in a way that actually is co-produced also with the grantees. So before we even developed the Green Roots Fund, part of the work around developing the fund in the first place was actually working with partners to understand how we can best sort of have an evaluation mechanism that enables us to understand how we're most being effective as a fund. And also could be supporting those organisations. I remember when I used to run a charity, a small charity, before becoming deputy mayor, sometimes you have some funders who create these, unrealistic reporting and evaluation expectations on small organisations of like 5 or 6 people, meaning that you're basically writing reports for like 3 months, and then it just means that your time then can't be out in communities making a difference. So what we wanted to do was to be able to have the evaluation mechanism in such a way that both enables us to get what we need to do to really help inform the fund moving forward, but also recognises that a lot of the funds that the organisations that this fund is intended for. So one of the things that I wanted to see was groups that aren't environmental groups to be able to get benefits from this funding, because sometimes what usually happens is the same usual suspects get the funding because they've got the admin support staff, they know they've done it before, they know what to say. They've got people who work just on evaluation and reporting. And so a big part of what we've been trying to do is design it in such a way. But hopefully we will also have, once we've collated more out of the projects that we're funding, we'll be able to report back to the Assembly around the impact of the Green Roots Fund too.
Yeah, that's really great. And to come on to swimming again, because we talked about swimming a lot today. And I was thinking about how, it's interesting that it's not interesting, but for obvious reasons, you haven't learned to swim. And I actually have a friend that was a former university flatmate, but she is a biologist in Hawaii, and she volunteers to teach kids to swim in Hawaii because it's the same problem. Even though it's surrounded by water, there's poverty, and people don't learn to swim. And it's a really interesting problem that I think is something that as a city we should absolutely ensure that everybody can swim, because it's great exercise, but it's also that we're surrounded by water, and it's particularly if our water is going to become swimmable, it becomes even more important. But just coming back to the Green Root Funds, in future rounds, do you foresee that we'll be able to add together funding from the £5 million swimmable London budget into this pot as well? So we'll, and these questions come particularly from the people who attended the roundtable, by the way. So it was important to people who attended that roundtable that we could see swimmable spaces as something that communities could bid for.
Yes, that's the whole purpose of the £5 million that have been put forward for, which is specifically to identify sites that we could deliver on. In addition to that, we've got a third of the money through Green Roots, and also a third of the money through the strategic pots fund that we've got within the Green and Resilience Fund. There are, in total, we had about £7 million when we first initially announced our Clean and Healthy Waterways pledge. And then, in addition to that, we've been able to fundraise through other sources of funding too. I've actually been speaking to Megan quite a lot, actually, about seeing whether we can actually identify organisations that we can support in relation to swimming lessons. What can we do to engage children, for example, around the waterways? There's some very interesting projects. Part of what we're funding around sort of the Lee, for example, is the rewilding, the green and blue, and the interlink between that. But there's an incredible organisation called the Leaside Trust. And again, they do some really good work around sort of recreational activities for young people living particularly in more deprived communities. And I should just say, I don't know how to swim, but I am starting to learn how to swim. And hopefully, when you next have me for a Q&A, I would have learned how to swim.
Well, you don't know when that's planned for.
We don't.
We might make the next Q&A the May meeting, so you're going to have to do a lot of...
Are you going to be swimming with the beavers? That's what I want.
Well, that's what we want to know. All right. I think it's
that's
probably...
getting too close to swimming with the fishes, and we don't want to go down the mafia route.
I'll pass back to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Assemblymember Clark, for graciously allowing all those interventions at the end there. Assemblymember Mafuz has got something very brief that he wants to ask.
Yes, I was wondering where Assemblymember Clark was going there in terms of learning to swim in Hawaii. I was wondering if there was an offer that was going to be on the table. But just super quickly, going back to the point that you made about the Green Routes Fund and Swimble Rivers funds, in terms of accessing funds from other sources, we've heard a lot about Thames Water this morning. I know that they've got a pot that is supposed to be for putting to support good causes locally. Are they one of the organisations that you're reaching out to engage to draw in that fund to complement the money that you're putting on the table?
Who was the organisation?
Thames Water.
Thames Water, yes. So when we had initially the roundtable around the Clean and Healthy Waterways plan, what we did when we brought together partners was we've been lobbying to get other agencies to put money behind our commitment. We've been very clear with Thames Water about their failures and how they've let Londoners down. And the least they can do is actually be able to support this plan, given that it's the will of Londoners, of which they elected the mayor to deliver on. And as I understand, they've committed over £1 billion towards our pledge, and that includes a lot of work around misconnections and a lot of the wider works that they're doing. They also, I think, committed to a £20 million community fund too. So we'll be holding them to account to make sure that they're spending what they said that they're going to be delivering on.
Okay, so perhaps we could, perhaps you could write to us with more detail of that. I'm sure the whole committee, as well as Assemblymember Mafuz, would like to know what Thames Water is spending its £20 million on. I'm going to move on, though, to the next area that we want to talk about, which is net zero progress, and that's going to be picked up by Assemblymember Tom Turrell, and then Assemblymember Keith Prince has also indicated that he might want to come in on this one as well. Assemblymember Turrell.
Thank you, Chair. Though before I get my questions in, I've got to ask the Deputy Mayor if I can get the scoop. Is the learning to swim linked to a triathlon bid as well? Is this
I wish. No, it's just I done one of those things where I committed to something without thinking about it. And I should just say, I'm at a very, very beginner stage. Up here. I can't even float. So, firstly, I need to get my... there's a long way to go.
Yeah, but, anyway, as fascinating as it was, I know I'll get told off by the chair after the meeting for asking that. One of the first questions I asked this committee when I joined it was with the chair of the London Sustainability Commission, where I asked about, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not at all and 10 being absolutely, how likely London was to hit the mayor's 2030 net zero target. He scored us a 2 or 3. How would you score our likelihood of hitting the target?
He didn't score you to a 3. What he said is that the mayor's doing as much as he done. He gave you an overall picture of us being able to reach net zero,
and
providing that
an
others...
overall picture, Mr. Deputy
Mayor. And what we've seen in London is that carbon emissions are down by 23% since the mayor's been elected in 2016. Particularly in relation to London Plan, we've been able to save 56% of emissions from proposed new or referable developments
is it a
when
one?
compared to national regulations.
Do you want to nod? If I go through the numbers,
what we're very focused on is making sure...
And
what I would just say is if we didn't have that 2030 target, we wouldn't be nowhere near where we are. What I would just say in the global context, because I think it's really important to make this
but when
point.
you say, can I just say, would it be the answer to my question?
Yes, it will be the answer to the question. Is in the absence of the leadership that we need globally, and one of the great roles that I have is being on the board of C40 cities, what we've seen, and particularly with the pace that cities are moving on, is that carbon emissions per capita in cities are being cut 5 times faster than of their respective national governments. And that's where London is, and that's what we'll continue to deliver.
So, I always find you good fun to question, Mr. Deputy Mayor, but I'm going to have to ask the question again. On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is no chance and 10 is absolutely, how likely is it London to hit the 2030 net zero
If you're
target?
asking me, is the mayor...
No, I'm asking you for a number. That's what I'm asking.
If you're asking me on how likely it is that the mayor's going to reach his mayoral manifesto commitments, it's 10.
10. So who's being deluded, you or the chair of the London Sustainability Commission? Is he being overly sceptical or are you being overly optimistic?
I think you've taken Ashok's response in part. You've taken 2% of what he said to you. What he said to you is that what the mayor
you're
is doing
taking
is very
0%
ambitious.
of my question.
What was said to you?
I think I'm going to actually say that you've asked it a couple of times
I'll move on. Okay, what further? I'll ask the second part of the question. Then, what further action needs to be? What further action needs to achieve the 2030 target?
Yeah, I mean, look, so what I would just say, Assembly Member Toro, is, as you're very acutely aware, we've wasted a lot of time under the previous government, particularly on areas around how we decarbonise our buildings. And what's been really great to see is that under the leadership of Ed Miliband, particularly as Secretary of State for Department for Energy, is that we've got a massive, ambitious plan on warmer homes, which, in response in London, has been a great boost for us to be able to retrofit our homes. So, we would have loved to have seen this ambition from the previous government, but unfortunately, as you're very well aware from your own party, who no longer believes in net zero.
I'm just struggling to hear the answer about what further, especially given that the current mayor has been in office for 10 years now. Okay, let's carry on the line of question, because I won't waste each other. It's being announced that TfL is going to miss its zero-emission bus fleet by 2030. Does this undermine the 2030 net zero target the mayor has?
That is not true, to say that they're going to miss their zero-emission bus fleet by 2030. What I would just say, firstly, is
they've announced that themselves. I'm not saying that. They've said that.
We've got more than 2,700 zero-emission buses in London, which is the highest for any city in Europe. It's a third of their fleet, of TfL's fleet. What they've said is that they are confident of reaching the 100% should the right factors be in place. Now, some of those factors are outside of TfL's control, some of which includes, for example, grid capacity, particularly around when we're thinking about retrofitting our bus garages, obviously the role of operators too. And what we're doing is, and this is the responsible thing for the Mayor of London to do, is we're driving conversations between Department for Transport and DESNZ to make sure that some of those conversations are reflected. But in terms of rolling out electric buses, I'm visiting one every other week, and if you want to come along to one, we'd be more than happy to host you. As you know, we delivered the 358 bus in York.
Yeah, it's a shame it keeps breaking down, though.
Well,
that aside, what other deadlines are we going to miss?
I don't think we're going to have a Q&A on the 358 bus, though. Thank you.
I've asked the next question, which is, what other deadlines are we going to miss, Mr. Deputy Mayor?
My job is focused on delivering for the Mayor's manifesto commitments, and I'm 100% certain that we'll be reaching all of those manifesto commitments by May 2028.
I look forward to holding you to each and every one of those.
Thank you.
OK, Assembly Member Turrell, thank you for finishing off. Assembly Member Prince, did you want to come in now?
Just very quickly, I think you have said to Assembly Member Turrell that we will not be meeting the net zero target by 2030, or did you say that we would be?
So when the Mayor announced the 2030 target, and it was the most ambitious for any major city in the world, what the Mayor always outlined was that the Mayor has specific powers of which he can deliver that. What we did say, Assembly Member Prince, unfortunately, we've lost a lot of time with the previous government, particularly on areas like decarbonising our buildings and retrofit, which is where most of our emissions come from. What's really encouraging to see is, as part of this new government's announcements around the Warmer Homes Plan and the local power plan, we've been able to accelerate our efforts on decarbonising our buildings. We're going to be absolutely going for the 2030 target. We still think it's the right thing to do. And we wouldn't have made those significant reductions in carbon emissions in London since the Mayor's been elected, the biggest reduction for any time for any Mayor of London, if it wasn't for the ambition that he put around the 2030. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we're delivering and protecting our planet for future generations.
So was that a yes or a no?
We'll continue to get towards our net zero target by 2030.
It is now an ambition rather than a target. Is that what
it's always been an ambition. And it's a target, yeah, and we're not walking back from our target.
I'm going to leave it there, Chair. I did have others, but...
OK, I mean, I think... Sorry, if I can just sum up what the Deputy Mayor seems to be saying, is that in 2016, when the Mayor was elected, the main source of emissions was transport. And because that is much more directly under the control of the Mayor, emissions from transport is now not the highest percentage of emissions in London. It is now coming from buildings. But unfortunately, because of the lack of activity from the previous government, which was until July 24, so obviously the Mayor was there from 2016 to July 24, there was a lack of support from elsewhere, which the Mayor has always said was essential. So there's now only 4 years left. So that's now become a very steep target, but it is a very ambitious target to meet it by 2030, but it is still something that the Mayor is not resigning from and is still aiming for 2030. Does that kind of sum up?
Yes, that's absolutely right, Chair.
Okay. Just to be clear for everybody, I'm now going to come back for Assemblymember Prince's further questions, which are on the Warm Homes Plan and heat networks, and there will be a follow-on heat networks from Assemblymember Boff at this point.
Well, I look forward to that. So, in January, the government published its Warm Homes Plan and details of its proposed approach to heat networks. What is the GLA's response to this announcement?
So, Warm Homes Plan is a key part of the Mayor's manifesto. As I said earlier in the committee, there are 350,000 Londoners who are currently in full poverty, and this is a huge issue of social and racial justice. The Mayor is very keen that we ease the cost of living by making sure that we're reducing energy bills for Londoners. And what he's done in response to anticipating the outcome that's coming out of the government around the Warmer Homes Plan is to set up the Warmer Homes London. Now, Warmer Homes London, forgive me if you already all know this, and I know we spoke about this before, but it was really important to set up because in the previous context, what used to happen was each of the boroughs would compete for money from the government, which used to be the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, to get money to be able to retrofit. The problem with that is twofold. Firstly, there's no strategic approach to retrofitting across the city. And the second problem with that is there are some boroughs, for example, who don't have the capacity to even think about the feasibility of retrofitting on their housing stock. As you know, social housing stock, for example, is controlled by the councils, not the Mayor. So the Mayor, in response to that, set up the Warmer Homes London plan, the Warmer Homes London, which is in partnership with London councils. And what we've done, Assemblymember Prince, is essentially set up a delivery unit on how we can accelerate retrofit across our city, but also making sure that we're supporting those boroughs that don't have the bid capacity to be able to get money from government, and also to stop the competition that is happening across our city. In its initial phase, we've got £231 million, which was last year. As I said, we're on track to reaching 1,000 retrofitted homes in London very, very, very soon, which is very exciting. We're moving at massive fast pace here. And hopefully, what we're continuing to do is having conversations with government from the new Warmer Homes Plan and the new additional money that they've announced to see what more we can get for London to deliver on our ambitions to tackle fuel poverty across our city.
All right, thank you. In regard, I mean, that's a very, very good answer, actually. In regard to the heat network zones themselves, exactly what role will the GLA be playing, do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to bring Megan in here because Megan's been doing some important work in relation to this. As you'll be aware, the GLA in the past has been playing a strategic role across the city around the advanced heat network zones. And of course, the government currently, as part of the Warmer Homes Plan, is looking to advance around the heat zone. So Megan's going to give us a bit more detail around that.
Yeah. So heat networks are a massive opportunity for London. You know, heat networks work best in dense urban areas where, you know, there is large amounts of waste heat as well. And so, you know, in both of those areas, this works well for London. That's not to say that we don't also recognise the challenges that have existed with heat networks in the past, both from the perspective of developers, but also from consumers. And so this new era of a kind of regulated sector for heat networks, which is now coming into force, is very positive news. We the GLA welcome the confirmation from the Warm Homes Plan that the zone coordination body will involve kind of joint working between the regional authority and the local authority. So in that case, you know, us and the boroughs. And we are working very closely with London councils and the boroughs at the moment to determine what that zone coordination body is going to look like for London, how it will operate, what its remit will be. And we're certainly working really closely with government to put forward a proposal on that in advance of the kind of new powers and regime coming in later this year.
There's this thing called the heat network priority areas. Is that still going to apply, or are you working within that?
So we will be working within our new role to determine what the heat network zones, appropriate zoning is for London.
So these zones, will they be monopolies?
Well, clearly we will go through any designation of a zone will then need to go through an open and fair process to determine what the potential heat network operator might be.
But once that operator's been awarded, that operator will have a monopoly for heat supply in that area. Is that not correct?
Can I come back on to confirm on that one after this meeting?
You can, but...
I mean, my assumption is that is the principle of the thing, that once you have an operator, they are running the heat network. Yes, in a similar way to other utilities.
So, I'm not having a pop at you in any way, shape or form. But perhaps the Deputy Mayor might want to answer this. The thing I struggle with these heat networks, I get it, it's a good thing that we recirculate waste heat from the tube or whatever the thing we went to see the other day, wherever we went to see it. I get that, but it just seems that there's two fundamental problems. One, there's no competition. So ultimately, the heat network supplier can charge whatever they like, and from what I've seen, it's a more expensive way of providing heat. So people end up paying more for their heat than if they were just to have perhaps a gas appliance or possibly even electricity. So that's a worry. What are we going to do? Or what is the Mayor, so this really is for you, Mette, because it's not fair to ask Megan what is potentially a political question, although it's not meant to be an aggressive one. What is the Mayor going to do to ensure that these people who are forced to have a energy supply from a monopoly, that they're not going to be overcharged and that they're going to get the best possible rate and that they're not going to be, not given the best possible deal and not have to suffer as a result? What can the Mayor do?
Yeah, look, I think the Assembly member raises a very important question about heat networks. And, as you rightly say, there are huge opportunities around heat networks and how we tap into the heat from our tube, data centres, for example, from lots of different waste heat, to make sure that we're driving down bills for Londoners. What we do need, though, just to be very clear about this, and I think that's the guidance that Megan is referring to, that we need, is ultimately this is at a national level. It needs the right. It's a bit like the water conversation that we're having. It's about we need the rules and the teeth to be able to do what we can do to really achieve the benefits of these heat networks. These are ongoing conversations between the GLA, other regions, and also DESNZ. And so we just have to wait and see what comes out of that. And we've been feeding in as part of that process around what we think needs to happen to make sure that we're achieving heat networks in an equitable way for Londoners, and the opportunities that can really come out of it as well. And so, as Megan said, we'll wait to see what comes out of the warm homes and the sort of the heat networks detail that will follow that, and then hopefully be able to give an update further then.
So,
sorry, just to add that,
please.
I absolutely do recognise the challenges around heat networks, and part of our position is that, we do recognise they can be disruptive to set up because it's a huge piece of new infrastructure, that it can be very difficult for developers and have an impact on housing delivery, but also that some consumers have had to pay more. And so part of what we're saying is through any new zone coordination body powers, we would be seeking to designate a heat network zone only where that really makes sense for Londoners, where it is making use of waste heat to deliver an affordable product for Londoners, that it isn't too disruptive disruptive that it isn't getting in the way of housing delivery.
Thanks for that. But so, Deputy Mayor, what has the Mayor, or even maybe yourself, done to lobby what one should presume is a friendly government to the Mayor and yourself? What have you done to push them so that you can have some kind of regulatory powers or have some oversight, so that we don't get, a contract awarded to a body that then goes rogue and a bit, I look at it like the bus contracts, really. And I'm sure you understand how that works, where the Mayor gives out the contracts to the buses, but if a bus company doesn't play ball, then he removes that contract. What powers?
We don't have just to be clear, we don't have any role.
I was going to say, Assemblymember Prince missed a couple of meetings from the committee when we started our investigation on the committee into heat networks and developments in this area. And Ofgem have taken on a new role from January, which we heard about from the Heat Trust, which we heard about from Citizens Advice and all the rest of it. So I think you're slightly posing some questions that would actually be covered by Ofgem regulation rather than what are we going to do from City Hall?
No, I'm aware of that, actually, but thank you for the briefing.
Just to be, just a response.
Can I just?
Sure.
I really think that Londoners would get some comfort if the Mayor were to be given some kind of oversight, and if the Mayor was lobbying to have some oversight on this, because it is going to be a London thing. It is going to be something that is promoted by the Mayor, funded partly by the Mayor, possibly. So I think the Mayor should or could ask for powers just to give Londoners some comfort, and that for them to have somewhere to go if there's a problem. I know they've got Ofgem, but even so, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I say, just to be very clear from the outset, neither myself or the Mayor would have any role or any power over the awarding of any contract. We don't get involved in those matters. There are processes and systems in place around that. So in relation to a hypothetical situation around a monopoly, I couldn't possibly comment on that because I have no role in that and we don't know what will happen. Of course, as ever with any concerns, we obviously always are talking to government around that. As I said, I've recently attended the government's roundtable on the Warmer Homes Plan, of which heat networks were discussed, and there were representation made from other regional mayors around that too. At this point, we just have to wait to see what comes out of that. As I say, officers are at an officer level engaging with business around that. And obviously, we've done a lot of thinking and work around the heat zones in London. So I'm happy to pick it up once we get more clarity, but that's all I could say at this stage.
Chair, I have got others' questions, but I'm going to let Assembly Member Boff do his bit, because I suspect he's probably going to cover a similar area to me, and he's got
I suspect it might. I mean, I'm going to point out to the Deputy Mayor that we have, and also to Megan, that we have just done this very deep dive with 3 meetings and also a number of site visits, and there will be some recommendations coming out of that cover things like, securing service, because there have been some breakdowns in service, legacy systems, and so on and so forth. I've actually, just before I bring in Assemblymember Boff, who I'm sure will want to cover some of that, this is a complex area. It's a developing area. There are a lot of legislative changes, but there's a bit of chicken and egg about installing heat networks or replacing heat networks, which is actually also complicated. It's my understanding that the officer who is the leading expert in the team is one of the posts that's being deleted. Where is this? Where will that expertise be sitting? Unless that, of course, is a mistaken understanding on my part. That person is being retained?
That's not the case. So the strategic lead for heat networks is Natasha Valadares, the head of energy, who I believe
has spoken to us.
Yes. So her post is not being deleted. So.
Right. Okay. So
and we have made provision for heat network resourcing and expertise within the proposed structure.
In the new structure?
Yes.
Okay. And you feel that it's at an adequate level to deal with this very complex area?
Sorry,
yes.
Chair. Can I just suggest some caution about discussing people's employment, please?
I just want to make sure, in overall,
it's coming from a good place, Chair, but we just need to be very careful.
No, I didn't introduce a particular name of a person, but thank you. I'm going to bring in Assemblymember Boff.
A lot of what I've was going to say has already been answered. But there was one thing that I found curious about what the Deputy Mayor said, is that they wouldn't get involved in any heat networks directly.
I said we won't get involved in awarding contracts of any companies.
But you are. You've got Barking Riverside, you've got Old Oak Common, you've got the new towns that are proposed. And in each of these cases, there have been proposals for heat networks. So you will be quite involved. So it is interesting to us to see whether or not customer choice is going to be part of those awards, that are part of those tender documents, because that's what concerns not just myself but other members of the committee. Is you see, I've knocked on the doors on Barking Riverside where there's a heat network, and one of the concerns that's been expressed to me is that somebody actually wanted to choose a greener tariff than actually was being provided by that heat network, and they weren't able to do it. And that's what it's. They weren't interested in the price; they were going to pay more, but they wanted to choose a greener tariff.
Yeah, I mean, so I absolutely acknowledge the point, and I do think this issue goes to the heart of the kind of the fundamental principle of heat networks, is that in this country, you know, for good or for ill, we do have a kind of culture of people kind of having their own boiler and being able to control their own heating system, and intrinsic in that is having some choice over, you know, providers and what tariff they're on and such like that. And so the kind of strategic question, I suppose, for heat networks is whether you know, the loss of that is overall worth it for quite significant overall energy efficiency gains in a kind of communal system. So I think it is kind of hard to square a kind of consumer choice idea with a kind of heat network system. So we will need to consider that on a case-by-case approach.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And point very well taken. I wasn't trying to get into individual people. We're going to move on to the area of green finance and also community energy. And I'm going to ask some more questions at this point. The latest corporate performance report highlighted that the Mayor's Edge Fund, which was announced in 2024, has yet to make its first deal. We also had the Chief Exec from the Edge Fund came to talk to us in September because we were looking into climate finance. How effective has the Edge Fund been so far if it's still not yet made an award, and how are you reviewing its effectiveness? And that might be a detailed question for Megan, but I'm very happy for the Deputy Mayor to answer it if you wish to.
Yeah, I'll give a bit of an overview and then allow Megan to come in, because I know Megan's been working closely on this, particularly in relation to the task force that we set up. I mean, just the first thing to say is as part of the London Climate Finance Facility, of course, we have different finance offers, and some of which have been more successful in getting more money out in terms of decarbonising buildings and projects across the city, and some of which have been less successful, which obviously is the Edge Fund. And as you rightly say, we haven't yet funded a project as part of that. What I would just say is, and Megan could talk more specifically about the Edge Fund specifically, is that part of the reason why we established the Green Finance Task Force was particularly around understanding what is the Mayor's role in being able to enable the growth that we need in our green economy. Partly that's basically learning around from our own projects that we've been having through the London Climate Finance Facility, but also bringing the experts across the sort of industry for that and across different industries. And hopefully, as I understand, we've had our first 2 task force meetings. It's going to be concluding very soon. And hopefully we'll be in a position where we'll be able to put forward what our, I guess, aspirations are and what we can do from the Mayor's office and GLA to make sure that we can really drive our work.
Just before I bring in Megan, that's actually going to be my follow-up question, was on the Climate Finance Task Force, which was announced last June and has been established and has now had 2 meetings, and just wondered if you could give us a date as to when the recommendations would be issued. You said concluding soon. Can we define
I
soon?
anticipate it'll be this year. When exactly this year, it's not something that I would be able to exactly commit to. I know we've got our final meeting coming up soon. That's going to happen within the month or 2. I'd imagine. And then after that, it's a case of, I mean, it's down for the Green Finance Institute, who's obviously leading this work on behalf of us to be able to put together a report. And then once we have that timeline, I'm sure we could share that with you.
Sure, that would be great. Maybe in the next 6 months, we think it might. I mean, obviously, December is quite a long way away, so we're in early March, so it's like 10 months.
Yeah, I think, we'd be able to commit to within 6 months.
Yeah, okay. Well, that would be good to see. Megan, you were going to come in on that point about EDGE.
Yes, I was. So, part of public service is innovating and trialling different approaches to things. And I think EDGE Fund was a genuine attempt at that. What we saw from the kind of challenges in bringing forward a green pipeline were, access to technical assistance, the need for boroughs to have, or, whoever the kind of project lead is, to go through all of these different stages, and it's very complex and very resource intensive. And we also wanted to be bringing in greater amounts of private finance. And so that was the vein in which EDGE Fund was set up, was this one-stop shop that a project owner could access to get technical assistance to develop the project, to get green finance from kind of private sources, to pay for the project, to actually carry out the works. And so it was a very kind of innovative model that we, the GLA, wanted to try. They have a very active pipeline of projects that are interested in making a deal with EDGE Fund. So I think at this stage it is still too early. This is a new product, still bedding in, still being explored. It's too early to rule out that one of those projects will come forward. But I will say that, the time is right to start reflecting on whether, how it's working. And one of the challenges we know that boroughs have told us is that they have to go through a procurement process in order to access EDGE Fund. And that is a very kind of lengthy process, which we probably hadn't foreseen when we set it up. And so part of what we're doing at the moment is reflecting on, how we could adapt that model to make it work.
I mean, you'll understand, obviously, because I believe that there's it's not just climate change, it's a climate emergency. And actually, the Assembly in December 2018 passed a resolution saying it was a climate emergency, and then the Mayor declared one shortly thereafter. So that's why I'm pressing you on, when is the report from the Climate Finance Task Force coming out, and saying, sooner rather than later, and also, to find out when EDGE is going to start being operational, because obviously the more we can do, the earlier. Just before we were talking about, are we going to meet the 2030 target? So this is all part of the route to that. Coming on to community energy, the 8th round was launched in October 2025, so not that long ago, but decisions to be announced in spring. I think meteorological spring starts on the 21st of March, so that's only about 3 weeks away. I just wondered how much funding is available. Have we done the assessment of the applications? Do we have a date for when that's going to be announced? Because obviously, getting all those community energy groups across London, which may or may not include the one that I'm a member of, getting them off the ground from April to start doing that work sooner rather than later again is very important. I don't know who can give me an update on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, community energy is an important component of the Mayor's ambition to reach net zero, but it's also how we do things differently and about how we put power back into the hands of the community. But I also think it's a catalyst for other projects to really start off in the project. And as you'll be aware, Chair, sometimes, it may be a solar panel on schools, and then what the community energy groups do, then it just starts many other projects as well, because actually it brings those communities together. And partly it's about also democratising our energy systems too. So as part of this round, we committed £630,000 of money that we dedicated for the grant of the 8th round of the Community Energy Fund. The difference this time in relation to previous rounds is, and drawing on from what we've heard from the committee, but also reflecting on the conversations that we've been having community energy groups and through the community energy task force that we set up here in GLA as well, is that part of what we've heard is the core grant support that a lot of these groups had were very minimal and often rely on goodwill, well-intentioned people who want to do the right thing but don't have the capacity to think about bidding or all of these projects. And so we increased that support from 10 to 25% as part of these round of applications, which was something that was very welcomed by Community Energy London and the community energy sector. We've also been involved in conversations with DESNZ, specifically around how we can unlock more money. So in this round, I believe we've had over 118 applications, which is incredible. Now, unfortunately, a bit like the Green Roots Fund, we're not going to be able to fund all 118 of those projects, as I'm sure they're all going to be incredible and great. But what it does is it gives us a pipeline of projects which we can then take away and say, hey, we've been able to fund so and so much of this, but can we get more money from government and say we've got these ready to go projects that we can really drive forward. So as I understand, we're currently reviewing all of the applications. We think we'll be in a position by spring of this year to be able to announce the applicants.
So 21st of March.
I can't commit to 21st of March. Unfortunately, it's beyond my capability. There's all sorts of things, as you know, processes in the GLA which require tons of sign-off.
I tried to nail it down to spring, starting on the 21st of March. Can I also just clarify, Deputy Mayor, do you expect to launch future rounds after round 8? And if yes, when is that likely to be?
I don't know when, but we certainly see community energy a key part of our ambitions to really drive to a net zero. And so certainly where the money is available to do so, we'll continue to do that.
OK, so GLA money, or we would be looking to the government for looking towards the local power pot?
Yes,
perhaps?
exactly that.
Both.
So I think but potentially, what I would just say is like, I think in the grand scheme of things, look, £630,000 will go a long way in making a big difference in communities. But as I'm sure you're aware as well, we're scratching the surface of what we can actually achieve, the power that we can unlock through community energy. And what it needs is serious investment. That's why I was really pleased with the government's announcement around the £1 billion around the local power plan, because it really needs that teeth to really drive that. And there's also some technical things that we're working out with DESNZ as well. You know, not to bore you around the technicality around it, but London's allocation previously on community energy goes through the South East Net Zero Hub, which means we then have to get money from them on the allocations, what we could deliver for London. What we're asking government is to say, give us the money directly that's intended for London so we can actually distribute it to these community energy groups rather than having to go for a separate layoff loop. And that's the representation that I've made to ministers as well. So I would very much like to see us in a place where we continue to have a community energy fund and we will be able to support projects get off the ground and work with boroughs, particularly where they've funded feasibility and we could fund capital or see if we could do match funding around projects and unlocking other finances like carbon offset funds from boroughs and other aspects as well. But, you know, for us to really make a big difference around this and actually get the attention and the money it deserves, it really needs the investment from government.
OK, thank you very much for that. I didn't quite get us to the 21st of March for announcing which of the 118 applicants said, but I did try. I stopped you earlier when you were trying to talk about green schools. We're now moving on to green schools, and I'm going to bring in Assembly Member Bassam Mahfouz, who's then going to move on to talking about waste. Totally different topic, from one to the other.
There we go. And I'll try and do it as seamlessly as possible. So, Deputy Mayor, I'm going to ask you what lessons have been learnt from the Green Schools programme so far.
The number one lesson that we've learnt is when you invest in schools and retrofit in schools and solar panels in schools, you're saving thousands of pounds that can otherwise go back into education. And that's what this administration is about. It's about making sure that we're alleviating the cost of our education sector so that we can actually make sure they're not spending tens of thousands of pounds on energy bills, on fossil fuels that can otherwise be spent on children's vital education, particularly at this important time. So we've funded 48 projects across our city. I believe that a significant number of them have already been completed. We've still got some way to go that will be completed later on this year. Every other week, I'm visiting another greener school that we've funded across our city. Last week, I was in Dagenham, again, where we saw a school with 205 solar panels that are going to be saving £18,500 a year on their energy bills. That is remarkable. What they've also done, one of the things that I was mentioning earlier to the chair, which I think is great, is as well as the investment we're making around retrofitting the school, it's also about how we then use that to link it into the education around the children as well. So setting up, you know, the climate assemblies for the children to think about how they can encourage more recycling and the behaviour change work, how they think about water consumption, how do they think about having a green wall all of these things that interlink together. And, you know, I think the Greener Schools programme, by far, it's, as I say, you know, it's something that you can look, you could see it, you could feel it in your community. It brings the parents together, brings the children together. And I think it's the best part of the work that I'm doing here at City Hall.
I mean, we visited a school in Hillingdon together, obviously, last year, and one of the things that we were doing on the day was obviously planting trees. One of the great achievements so far has been delivering clean air, which I think for me, with somebody with kids, you know, means that we're the first generation to grow up with clean air in London. You've also got the clean air filter programme. And I don't want to go into clean air generally because we're going to be asking about that specifically, but just on the clean air filter programme within schools, that for me is sort of the natural next progression as to how we make sure that our kids grow up with as strong lungs and you know, brighter futures. Where are we with that, and where's that looking to go going forward?
Yeah, and really at the heart of this, for me, it's about how do we create the best possible environment for our children to learn in. Right? So whether it's around, you know, I remember meeting Harry from Colville Primary School. We changed the windows, put double glazed windows. When I walked into the classroom, Harry literally ran across and he gave me a big hug and he said, "Sir, thank you so much. I don't have to wear a coat no more," because it was always cold and wearing a coat during the school. That's the real life impact that we're making to children. And it's the same thing with indoor air quality. You know, we were, in many ways, one of my very good friends, Rosamond, who's such an incredible and formidable campaigner who so tragically lost her daughter, Ella. Ella's story inspired the mayor, but also inspired so many around the world to take action on tackling toxic air pollution, not only on delivering the world's largest clean air zone with ULEZ and other sustainable transport measures that's really improved our air quality across the city, but also the work that we're doing to really improve air quality in our classrooms. We've got a plan to get 200 schools with indoor air quality filters. I believe over about 116 of those have already been completed. And we're now working across the different schools of need that we're talking to, and that's the work that Poppy is doing to make sure that we can get that rolled out and delivered this year.
I mean, that's such a moving story there, and yeah, it makes such a massive difference to London's youth and for their families to be able to sleep well at night, just knowing that improvement is coming in place. Do you see that continuing for the foreseeable future? So, with these programs that you have in place, are they in for the long run? And you know, what changes do you see as they get rolled out going forward?
Yeah, so, you know, both with the Greener Schools programme and also with the indoor air quality filters, these are both new areas of work that we've funded. A big part of it was about understanding what is our role as an organisation and being able to best support these schools. And, you know, that's the work that me and Megan and Poppy have been doing, which is around how do we make the environment, energy, the air quality unit much more delivery focused, but also in a way that's useful and helpful to our stakeholders and to boroughs. And, you know, this is one of the areas where they've been continually asking for more support around both retrofitting, but also around the indoor air quality filters. So I think what we'll be doing on the back of both allocating all the fundings that we've done through Greener Schools and also of the indoor air quality filters is really take a stock take of how successful our programs have been, understanding the difference it's making in the lives of children, how it's been helpful to the schools as well. And then hopefully we'll be in a position to be able to make an informed decision about how we take that program forward. But certainly, you know, these are areas that the mayor would continuously like to see if we've got the money, and obviously if we can get more investment from government as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with a number of schools in my areas, which are very close to very busy roads, A4, A40, M4, etc., I think, you know, be very keen to see that continue to roll out. I'm going to move us onto rubbish, onto waste, and so obviously the London Environment Strategy, which we talked a little bit about earlier today, had a target for 45% of household waste to be recycled by this year, 50% by 2030. How is the strategy getting on in terms of achieving that?
Yeah. Put the mic on. Yes, so this is obviously a very important area because, as you're aware, you know, waste is also another big area of emissions that we have across our city. And so, you know, part of our role at the GLA is trying to make sure that we've got the right strategic framework for the waste authorities to be able to operate in. But it's also to make sure that through organisations like Re London, of which you used to be a part of too, is that we've got the right practices in place around encouraging reuse, recycling, but ultimately, the real, if you really want to make the big difference, is about reducing waste in the first place, not creating the waste to start with. And that's a big part of the work that I'm doing with Re-London. Now, in the context of what we're doing around recycling rates, what we have seen is there have been a positive increase in recycling rates over the years in London. Now, it's complicated and it's complex in some parts. You know, in some parts of inner London, for example, it's much more difficult, where you've got a higher number of social housing and more density of homes, and it's much more difficult to deal with waste. In some parts out of London, for example, where you've got higher volumes of garden waste, you'd see that the recycling rates are higher. Now, the good news is with this government, is they've obviously brought forward the simpler recycling scheme. Now, that will, I think, fundamentally change the environment that we're working in. And what I mean by that is actually by bringing that standard and framework, particularly around how we manage business waste and commercial waste too. What we'd hope to see is that those recycling rates should start to increase across London. And we'll continue to support waste authorities however we can, both be it through GLA but also through my role at Re-London.
Just sticking with that point, in terms of you've mentioned the simpler recycling scheme. We have seen a push, obviously, to ensure that every single borough across London introduces food waste collection, which is, quite frankly, sort of that immoral challenge in terms of throwing away food waste to turn it into carbon emissions and polluting our air, instead of being turned into electricity or similar. And we've also got the deposit return scheme coming in relatively soon. What impact will that make in terms of helping make sure that every borough is delivering on recycling targets? In Ealing, I managed to get us to the second best performing borough in London, around 50% now. It was just over that before COVID. How will these the changing shifts around recycling improve London's picture?
Yeah, I mean, look, the EPR, the Simpler Recycling Scheme, all of these different national legislative changes that are coming into place, I think what it does is it brings consistency, a framework, and it actually takes away a lot of the inconsistencies that a lot of the waste authorities and the boroughs have had to deal with. Not least to mention that they haven't had both the power or the devolved powers they've needed, or the financial support they needed. So we're very hopeful that all of these different changes will hopefully provide that framework for us to see recycling rates increase in London. What I do think we do need to do, though, and we have to be honest about this as well, and I remember this from my time in Hackney, where we had an in-source service of waste, and for how we managed it. We had one of the biggest waste services for that of any borough in London. And some of the challenges, for example, we faced is we had a number of different projects that we were piloting, particularly on our estates, to think about how would we increase recycling rates. And we had an estate recycling program which went through 6 different phases. Some of that include, for example, closing the chutes, for example. How do we make sure that we got the right waste infrastructure? But also, like, in terms of some of the language barriers as well for a lot of residents. I know, having been brought up on an estate, for example, in a council flat, even having the space to have different types of bin was very difficult. And if you go out and you don't have the right bins outside, you just put it down the chute and your parents put it down the chute. It's a massive missed opportunity. It's not that those people don't want to recycle. So I think we've got a big challenge around how do we make sure that we, in many ways, I guess I'm going to use the word retrofit our estates, for example, to make sure that they've got the adequate infrastructure that they need to give their residents the tools to be able to recycle more. And so these are programs that I think, through my role at Re-London, we need to exchange best practice. I also think that Londoners are doing incredible things when it comes to the circular economy and reuse. Yesterday I was at the launching the UK's first ever circular construction hub here in the Royal Docks. And these are all material from like film studios or other sorts of I guess, like, places where they come from, where otherwise it would just gone straight to landfill or just gone to burn. And what we're now doing is bringing them back in and actually addressing the redistribution point around how we achieve climate justice as well, because actually it's about opening up those materials for a lot of communities who haven't had that, and they can help save them money on their bills as well. So I think one of the things we can do better at, and I think that's my challenge to Re-London often, is how do we make sure that we encourage best practice around reuse and reduction of waste.
And it's on that point of reduction and reuse. I mean, in my area, we've got Felix Project, who do absolutely phenomenal work across the city, and they worked with Amazon and the Mayor in order to launch our first baby and multi-bank, meaning that all of those products are going to families that can really benefit from that instead of it simply going to landfill or worse. One of the things that is a decision that's been taken recently, and the Corporation of London said was something that they didn't support, was the removal of the reduction and recycling plans. So what impact do you feel that has, and what can you explain the rationale as to why that decision was made?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, just going back to what we were discussing before about both the extended producer responsibility, the deposit return scheme, the CEPA recycling scheme that's been brought forward, and the standardisation across that we're seeing from government, in many ways has sort of created a more consistent framework for us to operate in. And, part of my role is often engaging with my former peers across the different boroughs to understand how can we be best helpful to a lot of the boroughs around Accelerate. And what we don't want to do is be a burden on waste authorities and be a burden on boroughs and put unnecessary sort of pressure where they're already feeling so much different pressures. And I think that these standards now, in many ways, replaces what London has led the way in the past. And we're very happy with these changes. And so I don't think we had any objections, actually, from any of the waste authorities. Actually, in fact, we only had 3 questions, which were just like more queries about how the relationship would work. But, we're still speaking and working with boroughs. I'm always in touch with my former peers, and we want to make sure that we enable them to really drive forward their recycling rates.
Yeah, I mean, personally having... Oh, sorry, go on, Megan.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to add that reduction and recycling plans were definitely the right policy at the time at which they were set, but the context has kind of fundamentally changed now, and these very positive national reforms mean that, the policy that was the right thing at the right time, isn't having the impact that it once was. And so this is just a kind of updating of our position.
And just to say as well, sorry, and not to go over this point, but look, as I say, part of my job is listening and engaging with my former peers, and this is something that, actually a lot of them have been asking of me, which is about how do we make life more easier for them in a way that could really deliver and not be a burden on them. So we're really pleased about the changes we made, and hopefully, as I say, with the new national changes, we'll see recycling rates going up in London even more.
And finally, for myself, in terms of how will you, and you've talked about obviously the work that you do with the environment leads across London and so on, but how will you work with those boroughs and those leads to make sure that they are in conformity with the Mayor of London's waste plan?
Yeah, we'll always, we regularly engage with our sort of boroughs around how do we make sure that we're supporting them on their waste plans. So, it doesn't, the change from the recycling reduction plans doesn't mean that we no longer engage or talk to the boroughs. It's just a different requirement in terms of that's being set out. And so we'll continue. We have lots of different forums in doing that. London is the statutory body that should really be sort of convening the boroughs on best practices to reuse, reduce and recycle. And that's something that I want to utilise in my role, both through the support of the GLA to make sure that we're reaching our ambitions.
Okay, thank you very much. Look, we've got about 19 minutes left, not even 20 minutes left. We were going to ask you some questions about London. We were going to ask you some more questions about the circular economy, so all on the theme of waste. We're going to put those questions to you in writing, as we mentioned at the beginning. However, we've got some questions about data centres, which was an incredibly important topic to the people who came to the Stocktake meeting. So we're still going to put those questions to you verbally, and the person who's going to lead that particular piece of questioning is Assemblymember Polanski.
Thank you very much. This conversation was largely with Global Action Plan and the campaigning group Possible, but there are a few other people, in fact, lots of people, very concerned. And so the main question is, how is the GLA tracking the environmental impact of data centres?
Yes, and I'm very aware of the work that both Possible and Global Action Plan have been doing on data centres. Understandably, there are, big benefits that data centres bring in terms of how we communicate, but there's also massive challenges around our environment, particularly on energy consumption levels and also water consumption levels. Now, the process of how which we're dealing with data centres, it sits within the policy framework of the London Plan. So what's currently happening, Assemblyman Polanski, is that policy is currently being fleshed out within the London Plan to understand basically how do we make sure that we take these considerations into account. The Environment and Energy Unit are working together with the planning team around the development of the London Plan to make sure that actually all of these concerns that we do have around both water consumption, energy consumption and other environmental considerations are reflected within our London Plan, and that will be soon coming forth as we develop the London Plan.
Thank you. And do you expect a dedicated data centre policy in the London Plan?
Megan can come into, I don't know how it's specifically outlined, but I suspect so, yes.
Thank you. Megan.
Yeah, nothing really to add. Yes, we are working towards a policy in the London Plan, and we're thinking about how we use that as a policy tool to, keep hold of the kind of economic growth benefits that data centres offer, whilst trying to mitigate some of what we recognise are some quite, challenging things associated with how resource intensive they are.
I should just say there's some also really good work that's being led by C40 Cities on this. So the Mayor of Melbourne, Nick Rees, really good. His city has had quite a few data centres pop up, and he's been working with a number of different cities to try to get, because we're dealing with it in London, but it's not just a London problem, it's going to be a global problem, and it's about making sure that our environment doesn't suffer in the hands of few global corporations who will take and not give back. And so we want to make sure we do this in an equitable way. And so there's an international conversation that's also being had that I think will be important to follow, because we'll also be looking at learnings from other cities like Phoenix, for example. They've got a lot of data centres too. But as Megan has rightly said, we'll have that will fit within the London Plan.
And finally, because I'm aware of time, just on water, are there specific conversations happening with the water companies? Because we know there's already a water scarcity issue. It's actually really, really serious. And then you're adding, not you, but potentially data centres is being added to that problem.
I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a big concern for us around water scarcity. And, even regardless about the conversation of data centres, there is an issue around water scarcity. And so these are definitely conversations that we are having and will continue to have, both in the context of the wider work that the adaptation team and the climate change mitigation team is doing at City Hall, but also in relation to data centres as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Just to add, we've been talking about energy use and we've been talking about water use, but one of the things that came out during the stocktake very clearly to us in the presentation, particularly from Global Action Plan, was about the impact on air quality of data centres and their need to have many generators as backups to test them on a regular basis. So air quality, I think, in relation to data centres is incredibly important, yes. Which moves us on to Assemblyman McCartney, who's going to talk a little bit about air quality.
Yes, certainly from the roundtables that we had, there was a lot of praise for the Mayor and his work on cleaning up London's air and the priority. But there was also a sense of this was not a job that had been done. And we know as evidence comes forward about the bad impacts of poor air quality in medical terms and others, that we need tighter limits and tighter targets. And recently the World Health Organization has, in the last few years, reduced their targets. So I was just wondering, what is the Mayor's plan to bring London's air quality into compliance with current WHO air quality guidelines? And I don't know if that's Mette or Poppy's team.
Yeah, I'll maybe kick off, and then Poppy can come in a bit about the work that we're doing as well. So Poppy leads on our work on air quality at the GLA, and we work very closely together. As you rightly say, Assemblyman McCartney, we've made huge progress in cleaning London's air 200 years earlier than what scientists and experts had predicted. But, of course, this remains a priority area for the Mayor for all the reasons that Assemblyman Mafu spoke about, which is about making sure that our children's lungs are protected and that they're able to enjoy their neighbourhoods. And so the Mayor has committed to WHO guidelines by 2030. What we are currently doing is we're working with Imperial on this to basically develop not just Imperial, but we're working with Global Action Plan and other organisations to basically develop a pathway to WHO guidelines, which will set out basically how we can get to that the targets that we've set out. Now, the engagement part of that has been done. What we are now working through, as I understand, and Poppy can confirm this, is we're working through the technicalities around the modelling with Imperial. As soon as that bit of the work is done, we'll be able to be in a position where we could then sort of publish what the pathways to WHO guidelines will be. When that will be, I do not yet know. Maybe sometime this year, maybe a bit later on this year. That will be something that Poppy probably will be able to confirm with us.
Yeah, and Poppy, when you do that, I understand that the WHO has further reduced its guidelines, particularly on PM 2.5. And so I think the Mayor's current plan doesn't take that into account. So if you could address that as well, that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So this piece of work will be looking at the 2030 PM 2.5 target and where we are in terms of that, and if there's anything additional that we need to do. But it will also look at the final WHO targets and looking at when, if we carried on kind of on the current trajectory, how long would it take to get there, and what would we need to do to bring that forward? So it will come up with a series of kind of possible dates.
And will there be timelines built into that so we can, and you can track progress against your different actions and timelines?
So this is a piece of research that will tell us kind of what's possible when, and then the kind of policy or commitment will come after. This is just a research piece that we publish by the end of the year.
Okay, so by the end of the year, and then when will, I'm assuming, some sort of action plan come out of that? When will we be looking at that?
Yeah. So we do have the Clean Air Delivery Plan.
Yeah.
And the Clean Air Delivery Plan is quite comprehensive. Now, obviously, there's always a lot of attention on transport and what we're doing around transport to improve air quality. And, you know, I know you've all heard all of the work that we're doing around buses, around all of that, so I won't bore you with that. But there's also some really good work that we're doing around the construction industry and the non-road mobile machinery, NRMM. Very impressive, I managed to say it. It's quite a mouthful to say, but the work that we're doing around the machinery in the construction industry to bring them within our air quality standards. London is a leading city, by the way, in the work that we're doing. We've been able to replace thousands of machinery that are now conforming with our air quality standards. We're continuing our work around raising awareness around wood burning. On our city, we've funded Clean Air Action Night, and that's something that we'll continue to engage in. There's a whole piece of work that we're doing across the GLA, and it's set out in the Clean Air Delivery Plan. So we're not going to necessarily wait for the WHO pathways work to continue doing those work. We're already doing all of this work anyway. What we hope is that research can help inform us, but also for our stakeholders as well, and what we could do to accelerate that piece of work.
Okay, thank you. Now, Chair, I had some other questions about ozone, which was raised, but that might be better in writing if we're short for time.
Thank you. The particular points about ozone are indeed relate, though, to the GLA's Cleaning London Air programme, because measuring ozone is not included at the moment. And this came up from the stock take from several of the participants and saying that they felt it should be included and that there should be targets. But we will write to you with those particular questions, as Assemblymember McCartney has indicated. We had some questions on transport commitments in the Mayor's manifesto, which you were just alluding to, in relation to electric vehicles, diesel vehicles, removing the cleaner vehicle discount, a whole series of questions around that. But we will also write to you on those, and we will move on to our final topic, and which is just as well because we're almost at the end of our time, which is a really important topic of airports and the noise and air quality impacts that they impact on rather detrimentally, I think it would be fair to say. And we're going back to Assemblymember Polanski for those to start that question.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going back to possible again. Alethea Warrington told us that if Heathrow is expanded, London will be the world's worst impacted city from air pollution from flights. So what work's being undertaken to understand these risks, such as ultrafine particles?
Yeah, I think, we would agree that, it will be catastrophic if the airport expansion goes ahead in Heathrow. The Mayor's made his position very clear that we don't think any form of expansion could conform within our climate change commitments, but also in terms of air quality, noise quality, all of the above. And actually, in some ways, all the great progress that we've made in cleaning London's air will be undone through the expansion of Heathrow. So We've been doing a number of things. Firstly, we've been meeting with a number of stakeholders, including with Heathrow, to make our position very clear to them, and have made our position very clear to government on this and continue to make that representation. We've also been meeting with campaigners. I saw Paul Beckford in your video at the start of the session. He runs the campaign against the coalition against Heathrow. We're engaging with him and other campaigners and other politicians and decision makers in the area to make sure that we're in the best place. There is some technical work that's happening within the City Hall to understand, for example, once we know more about the proposals of Heathrow and how things are going to work out, how we're able to get these across to government in a way that they can understand our commitment. So we'll continue to evaluate the situation, but our position is very clear. There's no form of expansion that could conform within our commitments.
Thank you. And have you or the Mayor specifically met the Aviation Minister?
No.
Okay. Is that something you intend to do?
It's not in plan, but if I do, I would be sure to make the representation to them that the Heathrow expansion shouldn't go ahead.
It's not for me to dictate your workload, but you just made some very strong comments there about Heathrow expansion, which I entirely agree with. But surely speaking to the Aviation Minister would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I would just say is the Mayor's also made his views very clear directly to the whole nation. He's been very public about this. This isn't something that we've spoken privately about or that some ministers may know or may not know about. I think everyone knows what the Mayor of London's position is on this, and he's made very clear that we think any form of expansion goes against our objectives, both in terms of air quality and our climate change agreements.
The Aviation Minister is specifically responsible for aviation, the clues in the title. Would it not make sense to speak to the Aviation Minister about a really concerning and urgent matter around aviation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to speak to any minister. My job, obviously, is to make sure that I can. I meet with a lot of ministers, and most of the ministers that I meet with are those who I have a direct relationship with in terms of actually doing things, in terms of like the Warm Homes London programme, the local power plan, what we're doing around local nature recovery strategy. I've not had to meet the Aviation Minister before because we're not in charge of flights in the city. But of course, if I do meet the Aviation Minister, I will tell them, and I'm sure that they're already aware through all the public statements that both myself and the Mayor has made on this.
Again, I agree with everything you're saying, but just to put the nuance, was that a commitment to write to the Aviation Minister to ask for a meeting on behalf of Londoners?
I think the Aviation Minister is very well aware of the Mayor's position on Heathrow expansion.
So for some reason you don't want to meet the Aviation Minister?
Not that.
It seems very strange.
I just think it's an odd way to. I see what you're trying to do, which is trying to get me to sort of commit to writing a letter. I mean,
that's exactly what I'm trying to get you to do. Yes.
I'm also happy to. The thing is, I'm happy to do it, but the thing is, I'm sure the Aviation Minister already knows what the Mayor of London's position is.
Well, if you're happy to do it, it would make me very happy. So thank you for your commitment. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just point out that we'd be very happy as a committee if you did that. We wrote after we'd spoken to Heathrow about the latest plans for expansion, and we've had a reply from Keir Mathers. But one of the points that we're really keen to know about, and I'm going to bring in Assembly members Roberts, Boff and Prince possibly on this subject in the last few minutes, is about this issue of ultra-fine particles, which we think is being massively overlooked. But let me bring in Assembly member Roberts, who wishes to...
Thank you. Yes, the Mayor has made his position very clear. It just feels bizarre that you're not willing to write to the Minister. One point about which the Mayor is slightly more equivocal, however, is whether he would be willing to join legal action against any proposals to expand Heathrow Airport. We've seen legal action in the past. The Mayor was part of it, but he seems a bit coy on whether he wants to take part in legal action going forward. Given that you said that, and I quote, it would be catastrophic if this goes ahead, can you give an assurance that the Mayor will be joining in any legal challenge to the expansion of Heathrow Airport?
The Mayor's made his position very clear about his views on Heathrow. We will consider all options, including that of legal action. But as of now, we've made our position very clear. We'll consider all options, and obviously I'm sure you will know when we know what steps we take moving forward.
So it's so catastrophic that the Mayor may sit it out?
I think that's disingenuous, what you're saying. But, yeah.
OK, we haven't got time right now, Gareth, for you to ask it again. Sorry. Assemblymember Boff, did you still want to come in?
Very quickly, the Mayor was equally trenchant about protecting the green belt, but that all changed. Are you going to guarantee that we're not going to have an accessible expansion, which the Mayor could agree to? Because, as a former leader of Hillingdon Council, which was the planning authority there, I can quite honestly say that you cannot trust a single word that Heathrow says about expansion because they will go back on it. And I very much hope the Mayor won't go back on his opposition to this insane expansion.
Well, I'm glad that the Assembly member agrees with the Mayor of London about his expansion, about his views against being against the expansion of Heathrow. As I said, he's made his views very, very clear. He's actually been London's leading voice on this, and he's made it clear. And as you rightly say, you know, this is something that we should have been holding previous governments to account as well when they were previously put forward to.
I appreciate that, but I think he supports my view because I've been going on about it longer than he has. But thank you.
Okay,
thank
you very much.
Most people associate the Mayor's views in relation to Heathrow than yours, but yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And that leaves us about 1 minute left for your question and answer, Keith, because we've got a couple of items at the end of the agenda. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that.
Give everyone a minute.
Deputy Mayor, I'm sure you're aware that a third runway at Heathrow would mean tens of thousands of skilled jobs, many for working-class Londoners. Can you look those families in the eye and justify why your administration would block those opportunities for our workers?
As I said in relation to the previous question, we live in a climate emergency. We declared it an emergency. I think we've got to start treating it like an emergency. It's not just something that we declare because, you know, it's just the right thing to do at the time. We've got a huge role to play in making sure that we're protecting our planet for future generations. All the things that we've been able to enjoy from our city and our planet, we've got a responsibility to make sure that we've got that for our future generations. And, you know, there comes a point of which, in relation to Heathrow, where we just know that it's just not going to conform to either the UK's or London's commitments on reaching net zero. And we've already had expansion of other airports. So some of the old arguments for Heathrow expanding is no longer sort of the case. We've had 60 million more capacity in other London airports. So it doesn't make sense for Heathrow to expand that. And we also know that it's got a huge impact on some of the communities that both Assemblymember Roberts and Boff have alluded to, and to Assemblymember Mafusa's constituents as well, both in terms of air quality and in terms of noise pollution as well. So I think if, you know, people do want to get flight, there are many, many airports that they can go from. We don't think that they need to expand Heathrow.
Sorry, I'm not going to. We haven't got time for a follow-up. Really, really sorry. I think that was a pretty clear answer to the point that you made, which you made very clearly, if I may say so. Which means that we have reached the end of our discussion. I'm sorry to abbreviate and also to put some of the questions we wanted to ask into written questions, but we've had a very full session with the Deputy Mayor. The committee has a few remaining items of business to deal with. You are very welcome to stay, but on the other hand, if you're ready to leave, we will understand that as well. Could I ask the committee to note the report and the discussion that we've just had? Thank you. Could you delegate authority to me as the Chair in consultation with all the party group lead members to agree any outputs arising from the report and the discussion? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 6, which is the Environment Committee work programme. Could I ask the committee to note the work programme, which is now pretty much complete, the additional activity undertaken since the last meeting, which was the site visit to the Hemico Heat Network on the 19th of February? Thank you. The date of the next meeting cannot be announced today because it is going to be at some point after the Assembly's annual general meeting, which is in May 2026, which will decide which committees to establish for the 26-27 year and a timetable for the meetings of the committees established. So I can't advise you of that at the moment.
Can I just take a moment to say thank you very much to the Chair on behalf of all of us for your work this year?
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. And just before we move on to any other business, I'd also like to extend thanks to all of the committee for being part of the work this year. It's been really interesting. We've had the focus. We've heard from Heathrow. We've heard from Thames Water. We've also worked on climate finance. And we've done the big investigation into heat networks. Thank you very much for all your work on that. And I'd also like to just pick on Mia Ginetto, who's been with us for the last few months and has been supporting our work, but is now moving on as part of her apprenticeship here at the GLA. We like apprenticeships, don't we, everybody? And good luck in your new role, and I'm now going to declare that I have no any other
Sorry, Chair,
urgent business.
can we just ask all? Can we just recognise all the hard work of all the support team,
The
please?
rest of the officers, I think that's absolutely right. I'm very happy to do that. Sal has been great and has given us great support. And Richard, well, what can we say? Thank you very much for all your work. Listen, we're at an unprecedented point in being able to say that we have produced all of our outputs, bar the most recent output, which is the Heat Networks one, and we've only just finished the last of those visits. We are, which I think is unprecedented in the last 3 or 4 years of the Environment Committee. So huge thanks to Richard for making sure, and Mia and Sal for making sure we get that over the line. There is no urgent business, and I declare this meeting closed.